Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in as we go into the UFO world. Courtney Marchesani is here to break down the latest UFO news, including Peter Theal, including the hearings coming up. We're going to get into that momentarily. Dirty Filth is here with another amazing cartoon. And the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you, including Tim Mothman and his goatee, sharing a gold medal tonight. Race fan with a silver, the lovely and talented Kira taking home the bronze medal tonight. Kitty Cattywhack, how are you? Robert Lamoth, Paul Shreves, Ron Baca, how are you? So thank you very much. I don't know who deleted your comment. I don't know what comment you're talking about. So that I don't know, Ron. And Gory Tiger, how are you tonight? Bar Madison, thanks for coming on in. And let's see here. Scroll on down. Jaquetta, how you doing? Thank you for coming on in. Mama Catherine, Mama Catherine is here. I love Mama Catherine, and she is going to be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Destiny Rocks, Cody Dodson, how are you tonight? Thank you for joining us. And let's see here. Luscious Jules, how are you? And let's see here. Scrolling on down. Little Timmy James will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Emperor Penguin, Frankie B, how you doing? And let's see here. Scroll on down. Let's see. Where are we? Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go to a show nice and smooth. You don't have any rigidness when you're talking about UFOs and aliens. Operation Shutdown, nice to see you. Paramarv, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call here. Eternity Eternal, Thomas Rock, good to have you both here. Number 29 in your program, starting on defense tonight from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson, there he is. All right, moving on down. Let's keep it going. Trucker Andrew, how you doing? Good to see you. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. And continuing on, we have, let's see, scrolling on down, Alien Critter, Tyler 420, Paris Solo, and Bob Thorson. Thank you for coming on in. Aussie Boss Tiger, how you doing, my friend? Kurt M., good to see you. Algaray on Twitch, 1,500 sit-ups in 3 minutes to prepare for Courtney tonight. He is jacked tonight. And let's move on. Noble Patrick, thank you for joining us, my friend. As we continue on with the roll call, J Truth Seeker, good to see you. JSCO, Mr. Cowley, nice to have you both here. Susan Alloway, how are you tonight? Hope you're doing well. Rock and Rory, UFO Sarah, welcome to SOR chat. Dookie Pickles on X, thank you for joining us. Phantomas Fanto, welcome to SOR chat. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your entertainment. Pam Harris, Kaz, nice to have you here. And Matthew Goodka, good to see you. Jeremy Jones, thanks for coming on in. as we continue on with our roll call. Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are going into the UFO world behind the curtain. Courtney Marchesani is here. We are in roll call on our YouTube side, and we are ready for anything tonight. Oh, yeah. It's going to be a good night. Hey, I want to remind everybody on the YouTube side, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And Aaron Bacca, just so you know, we never erase comments unless it's political, has to do with anything that is not subverse to our topics. Yeah. So, no, we did not erase. YouTube sometimes has a habit of doing that. Yeah, they do. All right. Continuing on, you can shop at our store and join our membership on our YouTube channel, just like AA Ron. Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin walls. We're together, my friends. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have an amazing UFO show tonight. Going behind the curtain, Courtney Marchesani is here to give us the latest updates on everything from the latest UFO hearings to politicians talking tough, movies like Age of Disclosure, and so much more. Then in hour number 3, it's a busy one. We have Swamp Dweller kicking things off. Little Timmy James will be here for the shortened, abbreviated UFO report. It's Dave 101 night, and it's the weird news of the week. So let's get right to it, shall we? Courtney Marchesani is an author, researcher, and intuitive who has become an important voice in today's UFO conversation. Known for her insightful approach to consciousness and the unexplained, she explores how human perception, intuition, and altered states of awareness connect to the UFO mystery. She blends her background in mental health and wellness with her research into anomalous phenomena, offering a unique perspective that bridges science, spirituality, and live experience. Yes, she's on this show quite a bit because we rely on her to bring us the latest and greatest UFO news, working on the UFO story. She is very much in tune with the people who are playing behind the scenes, names and voices you may not recognize, but that's what makes her good. She'll never give up a source like any good journalist should, and she is here, though, to help bring the Age of Disclosure forward. Let's bring her on in. Courtney Marchesani, it is always good to have you here on Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Dave. It's great to be back. I'm so glad you asked me to come on. I miss you.
Well, we miss you too. And you know what? I would say over the last year and a half, between you, Nicole Sackich, Grant Cameron, you three are the most requested guests that we have.
Oh, that's great.
Month.
That's great.
Each and every month. Yes.
Love it. Love it. I love it that the SOR family wants to hear more and what's happening and catching up. It's like having a conversation with your family.
Well, and that means a lot to us too, because you are like family to us around here, and it's absolutely amazing for people listening in for the first time who may not know your story. You're an experiencer. You're somebody who has jumped on this UFO story ever since it really took off in 2017, and you have built literally an encyclopedia of contacts and people chatting with you because you're not afraid to go ask questions. And a lot of people don't have that, and they rely on you to grab that information. How did it all happen?
I found myself first getting invited to conferences that weren't publicly announced, months in advance. Like people would just talk, hey, there's this important conference coming up. That was the Archives of the Impossible in 2022. I heard about that before it was happening. So I was watching and waiting. And I looked when it was announced at who was going to be there. And my line of research from even before my UFO encounter with my daughter was, psychic phenomenon, because I had had those experiences and I had been looking into it for years and years and years. And then I noticed the name at the conference was Ed May, and Ed May used to be the program manager for that program after Hal Puthoff, let's just say, retired. So then Ed May came in. So I went to that conference specifically because I wanted to meet Ed May. So this magical thing happens. I get to have him, like an audience with him for like 2 days, asking him all my questions about everything. I even got to see his slides, and we discussed adding this thing, which he talked about, which was called, like augmented decision. And so he rewrote this whole one part of his last slide in his presentation because I said I would like to know more about this. So that's kind of how it happens. It's somewhat synchronistic, but it's always based on a long line or area of research and wanting to like meet that person who has more knowledge. That I would say that's the crux of those meetings and networking and whatever. And people are always so kind and generous. They're always like, oh yeah, I could put you in touch, or you just happen to be there. At that specific conference, I got to meet Ed May and Jacques Vallée and Jeffrey Kripal and Diana Pasulka. So it's just years of going out into the scene and meeting people.
Since then, you have developed a number of contacts through your work, through social media, attending events, just getting on the phone and doing it the old-fashioned way and having conversation. Why did you take this subject so literally, and as matter of fact as you do? Because so many people, they could read a news article or watch a podcast or listen to one, and they'll be like, oh, well, I feel up to date. But you needed more. You have this drive to try and figure out why this is going on, who's covering it up. You're like trying to solve a mystery, like in the game of Clue. Why are you doing this?
I think it's one part character flaw, just like everybody else, working to try to solve a problem, even a small problem, from your angle of the universe. And after we had that encounter in 2015, it was life-changing. So I had that, question brought up to me recently, like, why are you doing this? What are you changing the world? And so I do think UAPs are a life-changing issue, but when somebody outside the field says something like that, like, what are you doing to create the change? I really do feel like at times along the way, I've had that interface with myself, like, is this worth it? I do think we still can create the change, despite the fact that everybody's saying disclosure is done. I still think that there is some work to be done. And so until I feel that feeling go away, then I'll keep with it. I'm not gonna spend every minute of every day, but I still think there's some work that can be done and good progress.
What is the progress? What is the story for people who may not wonder know what's going on, or wonder why we're putting so much effort and passion into this? What is the story out there? Because when people think UFOs, they think flying saucers, they think aliens, movies like Close Encounter of the Third Kind. I'm not talking the skeptics who are all about, little green man anal probing and swamp gas. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who literally have an intrigue but may not go in depth. To me and many others, there's I think we need to separate ufology, because you have the area of the experiencer who has had this unbelievable encounter and is just trying to figure out why them. But then there's the deep, dark side of ufology, and you kind of stray that line on both sides.
I was talking to somebody today who's pretty much, gotten out, real high profile guy, had a long heart to heart with him today. And he described it as swimming through dark waters. I'm done swimming through the dark waters. And so, you do have this pass through because there's an 80-year cover up. That is the main issue, is there has been an 80-year cover up. Even in the age of disclosure, you have all these witnesses talking about the 80-year cover up. Now, after the screening of age of disclosure, there are a bunch of really critical articles from the mainstream media picking it apart and saying, okay, you've got the witnesses, but there's still no evidence. So it comes down to that. So because I think the linchpin issue is the breakdown between the executive and legislative branch of our U.S. government, and that's kind of where it is, and you can see it and identify it, and there's all these people speaking to it, and then you can't even get people into a skiff to testify to a legacy program. You have this blockade, and it's maddening. And so I think that's the real issue right now in present day. Everybody's aware of it. People have heard about it. Lou's book was a bestseller for many weeks. So people have read that and they're read up and they have some knowledge. And so it's about education and knowledge, but it's also about that blockade and breaking through it with, a lobbying effort, which has been pretty successful so far. We've had 2 hearings and now we've got the 3rd.
Yes, let's all get excited for that.
Oh, come on. Don't be a Debbie Downer. This could be some really great progress made. I mean, I will say, when they put through the first UAPDA, it was stripped. And so now it's just like a Records Act underneath the NDAA, the big defense bill that comes up every year. And so there was some adoption from that legislation. They took out the presidential panel. They took out eminent domain. And so right now there's all these back channel discussions happening between the people in these various organizations and the movers and the shakers for more adoption of more legislation, more witness testimony, and, maybe passage of that UAPDA. That's been pretty controversial. There was another piece of legislation proposed. It hasn't gone to the floor or anything, but there is movement. There's more people getting involved. It's like all hands on deck. So don't be down. Don't be down.
I'm not down. I'm cautious.
Sure.
I'm
fair.
Cautious.
Totally fair.
As a journalist, I cannot take sides on this.
Right.
But as an experiencer, it's like, I don't want to hear the same thing. There's that cringeworthy moment of knowing that we're going back in, and it's like, what are we doing here? And how are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And there's 1,000,004 questions, that need to be asked regarding it. So if I sound a little smug about it, that would be why.
Hey, well, hold up. Let's do a callback, because at that first hearing, I was there. And I remember coming on SOR with Bob McGuire and a few other people. The guy from Canada, I can't remember his name right now, the skeptic guy. What's his name? It'll come to me. Anyway, we came on and did a round table, and Melinda Leslie was there too. So you have all these people that are experts in their field, including one probably, very verified skeptic, all discussing the hearing, what came out of it, the IRAD money, the way that they're able to potentially illegally move money within the government to Black contractors underneath the research money, the notification system around that, how flawed it is. I mean, we got so much information out of that first hearing. Not only that, the recognition and the testimony of David Grush saying there's a back engineered program, Dave. So I think that there's still things to be positive about. I understand your skepticism and suspicion. We've been through a lot in the last 2 years since that first hearing, but we covered it. We covered it.
We did. You know, I think though, after the last one, or the last two, I should say, I'm just a little frustrated.
Sure.
You know,
Totally
I
fair.
just am. And I don't see how it's benefiting the cause. You know, and look, I'm saying this, and let me just clarify my point. I'm saying
Okay.
this, that I really like how, you know, after that last hearing, a couple of the Congress people came out and said that was a waste of time. You know, that they weren't answering questions. I mean, Anna Polina Luna still will not let go of skiff flu. You know,
Well,
and
yeah, that was
and
highly inappropriate and really doesn't establish or foster trust. But
no, it does not.
I want to point something out to you in terms of a parallelism between the entertainment projects that came out, right? And the last year versus the year before with the hearing. There have been a lot of entertainment, movies, documentaries, right? Getting
Yes.
everything out into the community, more podcasts covering it, different angles, people with different expertise. But here's one of the things I picked up. When I was at Seoul, Eric Davis was there. He was there, and we watched the program together with Nicole. Actually, we all sat in the front row and watched it together. And Jack Sarfati was in there. We were bookends. It was Nicole, Jack Sarfati, Eric Davis, and myself. And so we're watching the premiere, right? A screening, a private screening, essentially, for Seoul only. And I'm sitting next to Eric Davis, and during the portion where Jason Sands' testimony came up, he starts saying PEDS. Now, I had never heard that word before, and I didn't actually know what it means, but it's the presidential, as this is a very important thing for people who are trying to understand the legislation of what's going on and the grappling between the executive department and the legislative department. Okay, so I just want to point it out. I don't want to go and do a deep dive onto it, but I want people to understand it because I heard it from the horse's mouth. And this is, Eric Davis, who was in the Wilson famous Davis documents. So he basically said during Jason's portion of the program, PEDS, and PEDS is PEADS, and it's essentially this presidential authority, okay? So I was doing some research on this, on PEDS and what it is and how it's used. And this is Eric Davis's whole argument for why the programs are kept secret. It's this presidential authority with certain executive powers, and it's only usually used in huge disasters, natural events, nuclear war. But he's basically saying this is the carve out and how they're hiding the programs, and it's totally out of congressional oversight. So, sir, for anybody who's interested in how the legacy programs have been hidden for the last 80 years, look into the PEADS, the PEDS. So he basically said that this is where all the special access programs are hidden for the legacy program. And Eric Davis just did an interview. I put it on my X timeline for people to watch him talk about presidential authority and powers and how PEDS, he doesn't bring up PEDS. I'm telling you to look that way, but it's essentially the way that they've kept it hidden. So here's an example that he gave, which I thought was really interesting about SAPs and information and presidents and presidential powers. He basically said the LBJ, after Kennedy was killed, okay, was read in on the SR-71, okay, because he was president. And when he re-ran for president, this was classified information. He basically acknowledged the SR-71 in his whole defense strategy going forward and got elected. And he declassified it. He said he just blurted it out. It wasn't like an official declassification, but he acknowledged it. And he used it in his political power. So watch the interview that I posted. Eric Davis goes through a nice breakdown of all the executive stuff, how it has been used or abused or, misunderstood. It's very good. but PEADS is one of the ways. And so when I listened to his interview and having heard him say PEADS, I was like, this is fascinating because it's a breakdown between the executive branch and the legislative and Congress. That's where it is.
Do you think then, looking into these next set of hearings, as we got about 4 minutes to go before the break, and we'll talk about the hearings when we come back from the break, because it is one of the things that I wanted to speak with you tonight about.
Okay.
Do you think then that these hearings are going to be movers and shakers, or do you think that these hearings next will be something that we've seen before, but just maybe different voices?
I was originally very skeptical about who was going to testify. I thought it would probably be like a watering down, after Lou Elizondo. But I do think that Burleson put out a statement in just the last couple of days that they have one guy who has had multiple events, witnessed in multiple events, and investigated them. So that tells me it might be a UAP task force member, potentially. They're talking about firsthand witnesses. Chris Mellon has put out basically a statement for the next hearing that we only want firsthand witnesses. That information is out there and clarifications of what a firsthand witness is, to the detail. Because when he took over the UAPDF, he came out and said, this is the new classification of witness that we're looking for the hearing. So I've heard that it was 2 firsthand witnesses, and the people that I've talked about, the questions they're having is, are they going to be firsthand witnesses to the legacy program? And so that's another distinction going into that next hearing between the SCIFs and what's being said about the SCIF cancellation in April to what's being brought forward now. So most people who have either testified, written testimony to Arrow, or people that are watching that, is it going to be a legacy program continue on or not? I don't think so. That's what I think is dying on the vine, actually.
There is word that there are going to be a number of new witnesses coming forward, people with firsthand information. Basically what Eric Burleson said is no more story time from people who saw a friend of a friend of a friend, having this information or saying these words about
Right, good point.
UFOs. And I'm curious, do you think we know any of these people so far that just haven't been outed in that category yet?
Well, I think that there is one compelling story that emerged right before, it was week before last. I don't know if you've captured it yet or not, but one of the witnesses, who's a citizen scientist, got a piece that fell on the ground, had a firsthand experience with, I think it was a black triangle. You have to go back and check, but this witness had gone through the whole process, right? He had no classification or clearances, but he actually had potentially like metamaterial. So this is where this kind of all connects for me, is you have these ways to report. They took him seriously. He went through this whole process, even went into a SCIF. And then his reason for backing out from testifying in this next hearing as a witness was because of what's going on in Congress and the legislation and the eminent domain, that he would potentially lose his piece of hardware or whatever tech he may have developed from it. So that's one of the concerns that's scaring people off from testifying. But to your point, I do think that having firsthand witnesses is important to establish credibility for this whole issue, but there are some serious legal wranglings around all that, depending on what you have, what you witnessed, and if you have anything in your possession.
Well, let's continue this conversation after the break, because it is going to be very, very important. I'm highly skeptical. I know I'm such an open woo guy, but I'm highly skeptical about the hearings coming up, and I hope they aren't as controlled. Look, I want the government and these Congress people to get the job done. I want them to, continue the flow with acting tough with their words. Let's see them act tough in these hearings. Let's see what we can get out of that, because I think where the public continues to get failed is the fact that everything has to be in a SCIF. Everything needs to be in a SCIF. Courtney Marchesani, she is one of our resident researchers. She's amazing, and we're going to listen to her breakdown of the hearings coming up September 9th on UFOs. We'll be right back. All right, we are clear. Good start.
We have so much to talk about, but we can't talk about it on air. So I have like so much stuff to like put a pin in with you. So I hope we get a chance to connect offline, you know, and go through some scenarios of what's going on. There's so much happening. There's some amazing things happening too, which I want to get to and want to mention as well.
Sure.
Specifically, the Tedesco brothers, I got to put in a couple questions last night to John Tedesco, and I watched another interview just before I came on with somebody who went out with the Tedescos and has some breaking news. So
that's very cool. We'll get to that. We can do that.
Oh, wow. Nicole showed up. There she is. It's all a dog and pony show. Look, loons, crooks, and worse.
The lovely and talented number one, Nicole Sakic. There she is, everybody. Let's give her a hat tip right there. Give her a hat tip. Derek the Woo-Poo, how you doing?
How long do we have?
We have about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Dirty Filth, how about a thumbs up if you don't mind? There you go.
She gave us a laugh emoji, so she still loves us. Okay.
I love her. I love her.
That's proof in the pudding right there. She gave us a laugh.
Loons. I'm a loony. A Canadian loony.
Well, much of what she predicted has come true, and I can back up a lot of it with the research and the information that's coming to light. So she called a lot of this a long time ago.
Oh, yes. I would say that's correct. All right. Super Crazy, how you doing? Lex Diaz, nice to see you. Good morning, Body Tech. Thanks for coming on in. Davey Crotch Kick, how are you? That never feels good, by the way. Hey, Filthy, you'll like this story.
Story? I like stories.
Yeah. So before tonight's show, I was having a game of mini sticks with my boy. Okay. I took a wrist shot, just nailed him right in the knackers, right? And here he is on the ground, like, that hurt. You know what I did? Because the
cross check for good measure.
No, the little foam ball that we were using, it's like a hard foam. It's really bouncy. It trickled in behind him, so while he's on the floor, you know, wreathing around, I went and scored.
Yeah, it whistled and blow.
I went and put the ball in the net, and he looks at me. He's like, that doesn't count. I said, there was no whistle on the play.
Yeah.
I said, that's a fair goal. 1-0.
Tough place lesson.
Mm-hmm. Sarah Yon, how are you, dear? Yep. So we went for a face-off. I was up 8-5 going into the third. Okay. I lost 11-9.
Falling asleep, Dave.
You know what I realized is my reflexes are not as fast as they used to be. Knackers. That's right, Nicole. Knackers. Nads plus knickers. Knackers. Yep. And then he cross-checked me.
Good.
Yeah. I'm like, you little bastard, right?
Hey, what could we say for swear words? Because you just said one. So what's
well, we're not on the
ruling
radio
on
right
the
now.
FCC standards. Like,
we're not on the radio right now.
So nothing.
So
you can't say.
Now right now you could swear all you wanted, but
damn or hell.
Yeah, get it all right out now. You know,
hey, hamburgers.
You know, that's why we sometimes allow Filthy to turn the mute button off.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, wow. She
Yeah.
dropped it. I'm glad it wasn't me.
No,
You know,
but
I'm famous for my F-bombs, my indiscriminate F-bombs.
all right.
This is
One second. Tim wants to hear you say poop.
I won't do it. That's beneath me, Tim, and you ought to know better.
All right, we
It's-
got 10 seconds.
it's
Big
shit.
thank you to Bob Thorson, Pam Harris, Mel WD40, and Cosmic Joe for the super chats. And no swearing now because we're going on the radio. Here we go, the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in as we're talking UFOs and going behind the curtain with Courtney Marchesani here on Mighty SOR. Hey, we want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our archives. They're always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Courtney Marchesani, the dark side of ufology. The new hearings coming up September 9th. Are you excited? Are you not? How do you think it's going to play out? Well, let's ask Courtney here. Courtney, thank you so much. We're apparently going to hear some new voices from firsthand eyewitnesses to this phenomena being hidden behind the curtains of the United States military bases and elsewhere. What do you know so far about what's coming up?
Well, I was told by one source, two firsthand witnesses, and they were basically talking about the legacy program, like I said before we went to break. So would they be testifying on the legacy program's existence? And I thought, no. It's an open question. We might see somebody else who might be like a CE5 person, maybe, or has done something along those lines. So mixing it up in the witness panel. I do think we will know one of the people. I don't know who they all are. I've heard rumors and conjecture and names be put up. But all the names that actually have been put up are pretty good ones. So I am excited about that. For a while, I was feeling a lot of malaise about it. And I was saying to myself, this is done. When you can't get people into skiffs, essentially for months or going on a year, and all these wrangling around being able to testify basically in a closed setting, it is maddening. It's frustrating. It's for the people who are working hard to push this through. It's a blockage. It's a roadblock. And so when the skiff fluke thing came up, on Joe Rogan, it was interesting to see everybody's responses because most people wanted all these parties to come together. The problem has been with new accusations, a new round of allegations are coming around very publicly that, David Grush was controlling the whole process, sending emails to, other people like Lou and Chris Mellon, basically saying, do you have your clearance? Who still has clearances? What are you going to, testify? And there's been some really loud and very disturbing allegations being made about, laws being broken, people telling Lou not to testify, that being documented and being, very real. And so you have to ask yourself coming into this next hearing, why would somebody tell Lou not to testify? Why would David Grush be controlling all of these witnesses, being in Burleson's office and helping with the Secrets Task Force? That's another question. So I did send an email to him and said what was stated and asked him to please reply or put out a response to clear the air or to clear these issues up so people feel free to testify, because it's either obstruction or witness tampering or potential perjury. So those three legal issues are the law. And the fact that that kind of hanky-panky might be going on amongst these, very important witnesses is one of the reasons why the whole whistleblower, part of this has been set up to people have the safety and the freedom to testify if they have clearance. But that's where everything gets all jumbled up, is the clearances, the level of clearance, executive powers. I mentioned PEDS and how this has all been hidden underneath these SAP programs that are not even FOIA-able. They're just, behind the Iron Curtain. So I think that all those things have created mistrust and let people down. And now people are thinking that the process is broken. I don't think it is. I think that there's still going to be revelations in the hearing. I'm excited for it, and I am crossing my fingers that these guys get together and use diplomacy with one another to get into the skiffs and get it done.
I like the way Eric Burleson is talking right now. It's like he's had enough. But we've heard that before from Senator Gillibrand. We've heard it from Tim Burchett. We've heard it from Nancy Mace. They all seem to take a turn in acting real tough going into these hearings a few weeks beforehand. What makes you think that this is going to be a little bit different rather than another rollover?
I think the new angle, and anybody who's analyzing what the White House statement has been, that we have this technology that can basically defeat space and time and has this advanced, this advanced science behind it, and that they want to champion that coming out. That's one change in the wind that I think people have been closely following. The drones, right? The drone incursions that happened over Air Force bases, over the U.S., multiple other places around the country. And then not only that, the companies in the UAP world, like Skywatcher, and little known fact that Peter Theal has a drone company as well. So, you see the shifting from the legacy program for actual technology. It's a tech grab by the tech bros. That's what everybody says. It's the tech bros going for a tech grab. Elon, Peter Thiel, even though he denies having anything to do with UFOs at all, there's a clear pattern of it. And so there has been some speculation about this tech grab and getting technologies out to these companies or to Elon or to Peter Thiel or other interested parties who are high level and tied in with Trump, that they want to focus on the technology and transfer technology over. And so the legal stuff all around that is like registration of technology that you might have. Danny Sheehan has talked about that in the past, about royalties and these contractors making out with millions and millions and millions of dollars to have advantages. This looks like an open process underneath the Trump administration. And the theory of power, essentially, that's coming from that is that Trump would essentially be rubber stamping some of these negotiations, and that some of it would be happening in Congress, and that's why they want people to testify, so they can transfer the technology legally to certain parties.
That's a big statement right there, if true.
It's certainly one angle that should be being looked at as the advanced, aerospace technology industry of what UAPs are. You and I have had this conversation many times before about UAPs and drones and the difference between. And so what I'm seeing maybe happening, and it is a bold statement, is that maybe this White House statement about science and technology and having it, and that it's amazing and wanting to transfer that out. And this was all under the Doge, when the Doge was big. They want to prop up American industry and business, and they made a public statement about it. So you have to follow up on how that's happening, and especially congressionally, if there's any tie-ins, you need to look at it.
I really think you need to look at it too, but who are some of the names that are being bandied about here? And then I have a follow-up to that.
Which names regarding which issue?
Going into the hearings.
Oh, which specific names? The one name that has been bandied about that I think is really interesting, if it does come about, is somebody who's not talked about that much, but he was the SSIC, basically liaison, who helped Jake Barber initially come out from a black project. And then he was supposedly like a CIA intelligence cutout to work with these various black programs. And I can't say his name because he is protected. I have contacted him and, sent emails to him and things, and he's been connected with Jake Barber. So he's been one person that's proposed. And when he comes out, everybody will know who he is. Jake Barber's name was put up as somebody who is likely going to be one of the firsthand witnesses because of his experience with the egg, and also somebody who may have done some investigations in a black project. So those are two people that I have heard might be the two first-handers.
Is David Grush calling the shots on who these people may be?
I don't know. I mean, you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but because he has this linchpin role between Burleson's office, right, and Luna and these other various people who are on that essential task force, and they were given like a 6-month extension to go beyond what they were already given. But you have to consider it's a big, huge group tasked with a major task. That's JFK. That's MLK, it's UAPs, and so they lumped it all together. So the division of labor and how that is breaking down day to day, I'm sure he's guiding. Everybody says he's guiding. He's guiding the process. He's telling them where to look. He's been a huge help. But I don't know about that other question. I can't answer that because we don't have a window into people's souls and the day-to-day of what they're doing. But the allegation that he was basically communicating so fiercely with the witnesses about the skiff and the controlling aspect of it, there's been two things that people have said about that. They've said David Grush likes to control everything. That's the way he is. He knows the way he wants to go. He assesses things the way he does, and he wants to be the one to lead the charge. So potentially, but not because of any kind of corruption or collusion or any of those things. It sounds like the way he is. But two, the advantage to having him be somebody who might be having like hands-on, essentially like a board member. He's not, but he could guide and thrust the lines of research and get the records out that would document it. And I have a third thing. I also think he wants to be vindicated and have vindication for the things that he said in the first hearing that have not been verified. So I think it's a personal mission as well.
Many people are used to hearing the names Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, to name a couple here. Do you think that they are kind of on the outside looking into this project now? They were the face of the UFO franchise for so long. And now all of a sudden, it just seems like all of these new faces are coming on in. Lou's had a couple of snafus over time with, well, let's face it, the unidentified lighting phenomena, the unidentified irrigation phenomena, missing the skiff hearing, which he had already made other commitments. So, I mean, that's a he said, she said kind of thing. But do you think that they're maybe on the outs now with the political side of this topic and it's moved on to other people?
I think I have to flip that in my mind in a sense. Not just being disenfranchised or being disillusioned, through this whole process they've been carrying forward with, control disclosure. But I also think there is a really, really nitty-gritty thing about what they can testify to. I know a lot of people are like, they can go into any skiff, they can walk into any person's office and give testimony, but not if you have presidential authority. Okay, under a Title 10 or a Title 50 executive order to do certain things. And not only that, the other aspect is videos were leaked, right? Videos were leaked out essentially underneath that White House administration. How was it done, right? Who was complicit in it? What classification levels did those things have? And so there's always been this caveat or like umbrella of immunity, that these people should be given immunity, that, their NDAs should be wiped away, and all these processes along the steps of the way have been allowed to a certain degree for entertainment projects, for testifying in court. But you have to wonder to yourself, and this is just how I'm coming at it, you have to wonder to yourself, if people warning off Lou, not to testify, why? Why would that be the case?
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, but has he worn out his welcome regarding his public knowledge of this subject? I mean, he was the golden child for a long time, a number of years. You know, he basically was the successor to Tom DeLonge, who wanted to be the face of the franchise. Tom DeLonge, the lead singer of Blink 182, and his failed to the Stars Academy. You know, I mean, there's that. There's the fact that, you know, his book, even though it was a New York Times bestseller, seemed to upset a lot of people within the intelligence and the governmental side of the UFO community. Like, you know, I mean, people who were very upset with the way he said things. Eric Davis, Jay Stratton, to name a couple. His tour, his speaking tour that he was doing, sold out every time, but you know, he did make a couple of snafus with photographs.
Well, and let's talk about the military community, who has been very critical of, you know, the history that was written about. Not only that, but, you know, the question that remains, the one question that remains that nobody's ever really answered, which I think is like, for probably Lou would give a lot of indication if it was revealed, is who hired him after he left the Army. He was, you know, brought into a remote viewing program. He named who that man was in his book. And so he was basically tapped, like a lot of other people are, to go through this remote viewing process. So how did that transfer happen? So I think that if that was really truly known and disclosed, would vindicate Lou. That's just my own personal opinion, assessing everything and all the information. But yes, the veteran community, some of them, have been very vocal and outspoken that the things that he has said does not line up, specifically his combat history. And so, you know, I look at all those things and I watch the videos and I try to understand what the veterans are saying, and they give very good justification for why they're upset. And they're calling it stolen valor. You know, I don't know, and I don't weigh in on those things. But when I look at the executive level, the military and the history and the experience, that is never mentioned who hired him outside of the Army anywhere.
But do you think after, you know, being accused of having skiff flu, that maybe he's on the outs and they no longer want him to testify?
I don't think he'll ever be on the outs because of all the things that happen. It's like the government having something and knowing something. They'll never disgrace Lou, ever. You have to look at that whole pattern. Now, the people around him, the relationships, the dysfunction that's gone on, the lack of communication, the power struggles, I think that's where the breakdown is that you're talking about. They're not a united front anymore. So who he's aligned with at this stage, anybody could take a guess and see what's going on and assess that for themselves and figure out who's still friends and who's still has a working relationship.
What do you see coming out of the hearings? This will be my final question about the hearings.
I think that we'll see if there's been any inroads made into the legacy program or if that's stalled. And if it has stalled, then it's probably going to be a dead issue. And I also think the alternative hypothesis will probably happen where there's a technology transfer. We'll be aware, they'll disclose or release some technology that they feel that they can basically sell to buyers. That's what I think. It's all about the technology. That's what I think. The new technology, the advanced stuff that they want to release.
All right, let's go on to our next topic, which is billionaire Peter Theal. Now, every time we hear about this guy, I mean, he allegedly has nothing that he wants to do with ufology, but every now and again, we hear something pop up that he could be spending some of his bajillions of dollars on, and it regards UFOs. It started a few years ago where he funded Enigma Labs to be a research company that had nothing to do with the government, but somehow wiggled their way into a lot of government type of speaking engagements. Then we hear that, you know, one of his underlings, gentleman by the name of Jesse Michaels, kind of comes out of nowhere and takes over basically the YouTube story of this, becoming a major UFO influencer or UAP influencer online and gathering a bunch of big named UFO intrigued people from YouTube to kind of hop on the saddle with them and ride with them. And then now we're kind of hearing, and you kind of brought this up just recently, and Tim James, our UFO reporter, mentioned this on the show earlier this week, that Peter Theal may have been a backer financially for the documentary Age of Disclosure. What's going on with Peter Theal?
Well, I thought everybody knew that. I mean, that was a, thing on my mind that I thought was just accepted along with the production of the Age of Disclosure, because it was talked about, by people in that, in that production as, it just common knowledge. So when I dropped that on Psychoactivo, with Pavel, I didn't think that there was going to be this huge the backlash, or even that people didn't know, or that there would be a categorical denial by Theal that he funded it. So it's opened it up like a beehive of what's the story here, and why wouldn't this be acknowledged if he funded it? And so there's a whole history around why people would be upset if he did. But let's just go back to the other part that you mentioned, that he funded Enigma. Okay. Now, when that came out and Enigma was established, I thought he did fund it. But everybody is now saying, no, he's never been involved with UFOs, and it's not his thing. And Jesse Michaels offered him to come in on a project, I think it was maybe with Hal Puthoff, and he said, no, he wasn't interested. Or maybe it was with Greer. No, he's not interested in that. And so the party line, from that group is that, no, he's not involved with anything, doesn't want to be involved with anything. So answer the first question. Did he fund Enigma?
I heard that he had funded between $5 and $8 million into Enigma.
So we've got an amount. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I talked with a distributor in LA through a friend of mine, and she said that he doesn't have to report it. Dan Farah doesn't have to report if he got funding from Theal or his funders. They don't really care about that on the line items for the movie. They just go out and sell it. So right up until I was going to the Age of Disclosure, I got notes that were like, look for Peter Theal on the credits, or whatever. And I was waiting actually for the credits to see if there was a thanks, to him. And I got distracted because all these people were talking about UFOs in my ear. So I eventually, looked away, and I didn't see the end of the credits. I didn't see it when I was there in the theater, and I stayed and watched, most of it. It was only the very last couple minutes that I took my attention away. So obviously, if he funded it, but he didn't want to have to let people know, and he wanted to be a private donation or something, then that's his choice. He doesn't have to declare it, or the movie doesn't have to disclose it in any kind of financial bottom line process going into distribution. So, that's just going to remain a question mark, I think. But
do you think he did?
Do I think he did? Yeah, I still think he did. Yes, I still think he did, because in talks in 2024, people were telling me that he did. And that was a part of the big excitement around it, and that Dan Farah was looking for a theatrical release, and that Dan Farah also had connection to Spielberg, and so it was going to be this high profile, well-funded project. That's kind of how it was explained to me. It had gone through the SSIC, the Intelligence Committee, for approval for all the whistleblowers' testimonies or the witnesses to be in there. So the fact that there's been a categorical denial now and the movie's been held up, people do have questions like, why is this movie putting the brakes on disclosure? No, I don't think the movie's putting the brakes on disclosure, but I think it really would have helped disclosure along the way. And the fact that it's being delayed, it's not newsworthy anymore. It's not like, the hot stuff and breaking news. So the longer the delay, the more stale it gets.
Well, you know what? We're going to see how it happens. We're going to continue the Peter Theal conversation because there is more questions to go down that road. Courtney Marchesani is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She is a citizen journalist researcher when it comes to the topic of UFOs, all around the U.S., and she likes to go behind the curtains, as I like to say, to find out what is going on. And we love it when she's here because UFO Court is in session. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we have about 6 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Dirty Filth, we're going to turn this bad boy over to you because you're
Over to
awesome
me?
that way. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. You may be seated. And everybody gets up.
That's not
Bye,
some
Dave.
paranormal graffiti I'm seeing there, is it?
Oh, it's part of the story. This is page 7 of Nightcrawler's Evening. So I'll have to grab the story and tell everybody how it goes, because it has to go in chronological order. So okay. Oh, these are some little drawings I did. It's the 69th anniversary of the Hopkinsville's Goblins today. And then here's the Goblin. He's having some sour slushy. And then we have the Mothman. He enjoys his deep dish pizza. And obviously Carl's trying to mooch some slices off of him. And the Gargoyle's just got his little pack of cat snacks. And of course the Gremlin wants a slice really bad because he's a little pizza thief. He's actually stolen pizza before. Thanks, JSCO. Okay, I'll tell you. Here's Nightcrawler's night out. So here goes Nightcrawler. He's going out to meet Lady Nightcrawler. UFO in the background and everything. So he's sauntering through the city. And on the way there, goes through the cut, makes a little shortcut, and he stops and looks at. There's two little zombunnies at the basketball court, and they're spray painting a UFO on the back wall there. So he waits for the zombunnies to leave, and then he goes and looks, and he notices that there's some spray paint there, and he investigates the spray painted UFO there. But he realizes he's still got to make up some time, so he runs as fast as little tiny Nightcrawler legs can take him. And there he goes, sauntering to meet Lady Nightcrawler. So he meets up with Lady Nightcrawler. She happens to be the only person in the city that owns a castle, by the way. And she's dressed up nice. They're going to go to the Liquid Lounge and listen to some good music and dance all night. She's even got her little skull and crossbones bow tie on today. So they go to the Liquid Lounge. Hi, Sandra. They go to the Liquid Lounge and dance to Funker Vogue and It's a Reb and probably some Skinny Puppy or something. And after that, Nightcrawler walks Lady Nightcrawler home, and then he takes a trip back and he notices that the spray cans are still there. And I haven't finished the last painting, but he ends up spray painting Nightcrawler and Lady Nightcrawler with a little heart on the wall as well before he goes home. How cute. So that's the story, everybody. It's not quite done yet. I'm going to put it into my third book I'm working on. Yes. I'm on all types of social media too. They're Tim Mothman with beard and beard. So there we are. I'll have to finish the next one probably next week of some sort. But if you have time and you're not doing anything on Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, just plug in Cryptid Cartoons with Dirty Filth, and it should be on the Spaced Out Radio page. And I sit there and I draw cartoons for about an hour. Oh, and speaking of Lady Nightcrawler, there's the plushified form of Lady Nightcrawler. Let me get the... there, see, look at that. It's quite the match to her. And my accomplice that made this had a lot of difficulties with the webbing on the skirt because she had to peel out the in-between pieces. So it's pretty neato. So I hope everybody has a good rest of the night, and I will see you guys in the future. hopefully Saturday. Just make sure I get my pages back in order here. Lady Nightcrawler is usually the DJ at the Liquid Lounge, and she also works at the local animal shelter. It's time to go give the cats snacks now.
Not yet.
Davey, I never let anybody down. Well, I don't know why.
Well,
What
if
about
that's
not
the way
yet,
you
Dave?
feel, if that's the way you feel, you go for it.
I will. I'm going to give the cats some snacks right now, Dave.
All right.
Hey,
Okay,
can I
have a
just
good night.
have a good night? Good night.
Have a good night, Courtney.
Hey,
Night, Dave. Good night, everybody.
I just wanted to say I just caught somebody in the chat that said that Peter Thiel did not fund Enigma, that it was a friend of his and a filmmaker and his wife. And so I just wanted everybody to know that it was the person that he's mentioning is Darren Aronofsky. Darren Aronofsky is a famous filmmaker, and Alice, his wife, is who that commenter said, funded Enigma.
Yes.
So it's interesting because
I'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about that on the air.
all right.
All right. Astro Fugitive, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you, Bob, Pam, Mel, and Joe for the great super chats. Let's see who else we missed here in that time. All right. We got 5 seconds. Hour number 2 is underway here on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. I'm a guy who wears a lot of tinfoil during the day and even more during the night. We are talking UFOs tonight with Courtney Marchesani, citizen journalist and researcher into the phenomena. And we are having a great time with her. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Glam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Zerotripsis. Zerotripsis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring back Courtney Marchesani hanging on out with us, telling us the latest on the UFO story that's going on behind the scenes, preparing for more hearings. And right before the break, we were talking about billionaire Peter Thiel. Does he have a connection to the UFO world? Now, Seymour in our chat room said Peter Thiel was not the person who funded Enigma Labs. An associate, and her name is public, was a majority funding mechanism. Now, I disagree with this comment because I've had 3 different sources that are very much in the background tell me that Peter Thiel was the money man or one of the money men behind this project to the tune of $5 to $8 million. Now, Courtney, what do you think?
Well, we saw the slideshow, that first came out. It must have been 2021 or 2022 with all the board, the proposed board for Enigma. And so here's how it connects for me. I'm just going to say my personal experience, no sources given on this, but just what was told at that time when Enigma was forming its board and its foundation, that people were approached. I just want to clarify, what I've said in the last couple of interviews, that people were approached, personal people that I know were approached by either somebody who was an intermediary for Peter Thiel that wanted to fund their brand or their book or a possible entertainment project. But besides that, okay, that aside, then there were other people in the UFO community at that time who had either written a book or were journalists, and they were approached by Peter Thiel personally about getting into the UFO field. And so I think it warrants questions to go back to the people that were on those slides and who they were, okay, that's very public, and then ask them yourself. Ask them yourself if Peter Thiel approached them and offered them a deal essentially to cover UFOs. And two of them were on the Enigma board. And I had heard from people connected to those people that they were approached by him individually. So that's kind of what I go back. I look into the historical perspective and what we were all talking about that time. And many of us and people who were in Fight Club, the famous Fight Club, they were saying, yeah, they were approached. And some people turned the deal down and other people took it. So it's always been behind the scenes. It's never been a formal announcement, and it's never been public that he funded these individuals or asked them to come on to the Enigma board, but it was discussed. That's my perspective.
Do you think Peter Thiel is the modern day Robert Bigelow who used to own Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes. And that's where when Nicole was making her crooks, loons, or worse comment, it goes back into that history of all those different programs. Bigelow was the recipient of that first funding for an actual UAP carve out with dollars that went to an organization. And we know he was connected to Harry Reid, and Harry Reid pushed it through. We also know that Harry Reid tried to make OSAP a special access program that the Pentagon didn't approve. And so you do have to have footholds into all these different ways to understand this issue and who funds what. That was public. That was a public, funded program. And he was the contractor.
Why do you think Peter Thiel, billionaire extraordinaire, already tied into government defense programs and many others, he made his money off of PayPal with Elon Musk, so there's a tight relationship there. Why do you think he has such an interest in the UFO subject?
Well, I think he's an experiencer. That's what I think.
Is he an experiencer? Or is he someone who sees the end game for the technology that might be hidden there, or maybe he knows the technology is hidden there?
I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I don't think they have to be completely separate on the diagram. But I think the only way to suss that out is the people who have been following his investments over the long time that he's been successful, and that he does have an interest in it. We know people who know him, who are in the fields, who are high level people. I mean, Gary Nolan knows him, Diana Pasulka knows him, and so they have relationships with him. So it shouldn't be like a taboo subject. The way the money flows, it really doesn't matter when it's private industry and things. But when it comes to the government, you could understand why he wouldn't want to be perceived as going for the advanced tech, because it could potentially be a conflict of interest because he has Palantir. But it's all the way they set up their companies. It's all the way that they, approach these individuals that, know about the program. So do I think a connection exists? Absolutely. Yes.
Is this going to be good for ufology, or is it going to be dangerous?
Well, that's been the classic argument. I mean, even when we had our SOR chats on our Facebook group that so many people were involved in, so many high-level people, it was probably split down the middle, where you have people, filmmakers, academics, who thought his involvement and his interest and his investments was a great thing to move disclosure forward. Then there's the other side of it politically, that people thought, he had entrenched himself so much in all of it and was moving it so forward. They had a real disdain for it because it should be science and technology for all. And so, there's a real big division on that.
Do you think then that he does have a road to disclosure, or is it a road to more money being made?
I think that's what we're going to find out in the next year with his company, his drone company, Anduril. Watch that very closely. He's now investing and just threw a huge amount of money down into a certain type of cryptocurrency. And from talking with other people in the financial world and financial advisors about this issue, and specifically the Trump administration and, the trade issues and the taxes and how that's all working, I asked somebody, why is it that the market has been so stable with all these other instabilities? And they said all the financial heavyweights are looking into AI. So I would watch that as well. I would watch his investments into AI and all the stuff that he's doing. And because he's obviously, very smart and has been very successful, but that'll tell you. That'll tell you. You're not going to get it. You're not going to like read it on a headline. Maybe you have to interpret it. You have to analyze it.
Are there UFO names out there that have maybe had conversations with Peter Thiel regarding the UFO subject and the importance of digging into it? Whether it's scientists like Eric Davis or Diana Pasulka or anybody like that?
Yeah, I think Gary Nolan probably definitely knows him. I think that I posted something recently on my timeline about their connection. So you can go look at that or reference that. So yeah, I do think they've had conversations. It's a guess. I don't know that for certain. I am going to go to the Soul Symposium in Italy. So maybe he'll be there and I'll be able to talk to him personally if he's at the Soul Symposium.
That would be actually kind of cool.
It would. Yeah, it would. We could clear the air and I could say, hey, this is what I heard. If it was wrong, I apologize. I mean, I could basically tell him what I was basing my information on with the movie, and we would have a great conversation about markets and future energy and the economy. But I have never seen him. I've never seen him at any of these events. Now, at Soul coming up, it is a very exclusive thing. There's a $350 dinner. Right. So one of the first nights they're having like a private dinner, $350 a head. Then there's a whole like forum thing where you can go and do investment. That's $3,500 to get into that. So very exclusive. So of course I'm not doing any of that. I'll probably just get like a charcuterie board in my room. But it's expensive. And so it's the elite. We're seeing this rise of elitism. Which is at once concerning and also exclusive because it cuts certain people out from being able to attend those things. So I have mixed feelings about it.
When you look at the entire landscape, because it really does bode for what I've called often, and I've said this to you, disclosure for dollars. Are we looking at a momentum here in the scientific community where it is coming down to disclosure for dollars, but disclosure actually means we'll disclose to ourselves and not the general public?
I don't think wholly. I think part and parcel. I think, yes, there is definitely some part of it that is funding and technology and money and deep investment into things like crypto, certain types of crypto, tying that in, who's got the technology, who's doing the studies, who's doing like the frontline level stuff, and then who wants to fund it. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I also think the second part of this is these individuals do want disclosure. And they have done a ton of work all along the way for all of us, including Eric Davis, explaining to us how this whole system works about this compartmentalization. So they at once educate us. They also share their journey into what's happened to them, which is very important. And 3, they're trying to light the way. Is there money being made along the process? Yeah. And I think as business people and entrepreneurs who are into tech, they would say, you can't do business without a profit. And so in the US, capitalism is how we, keep ourselves prosperous. So that's not a thing that's taboo in the US.
Okay, let's throw a little conspiracy theory out here, because recently we heard Vice President J.D. Vance talking about how during the recess in August here, he was going to be doing a deep dive into learning more about UFOs because he's just absolutely fascinated with this topic. Well, we also know that Peter Thiel has backed J.D. Vance politically on a couple of occasions, and I'm wondering now if Theal looks at J.D. Vance as his inroad to the higher-ups like Donald Trump, the president, and others within his staff about trying to get this story and get control of it. What do you think about that?
Oh, people have gone further than that. Some people have speculated that when Trump said about the drone issue, they won't allow me to say, or whatever his exact quote is, I'm paraphrasing, that he was talking about Peter Thiel. Because people think that maybe Peter Thiel had, maybe possibly drones, or he was involved with it on some level, so that when Trump said, they won't let me answer, that he was directly pointing to Vance and Theal. So I don't take it that far. I think it's an interesting angle. But in terms of, Vance and his political history and their connection, that's been well established. And that Peter Thiel helped him to get into Silicon Valley and establish roots and to be successful, and that he totally backed him with the writing of his book, Hillbilly Elegy, supporting that. Once again, a book, another media project, and then a film came out of that. So I've just been saying to people over and over, there's an established pattern. He picks people, he sees potential in them, he wants to support them. Usually there's a media project involved, obviously business, and that business connection, and those two things kind of linked up, and he's a kingmaker. I'm saying that straight, because he made Vance. He did. He backed him with support. I mean, Theal funded a lot of people politically. So it's not just Vance, but Vance's rise up and to be the VP. Did people think that he would ever be the actual president? No, people didn't think that in a million years, but a lot of people were watching it, and now he is. And so a lot of people are saying he's going to be the pick for the GOP for the next election.
Well, and that's the wonder that I have is, does this UFO subject fall onto the heels now of potentially J.D. Vance in the future being the disclosure president because of Peter Thiel?
They have it all gamed out. It would make absolute sense. It would make absolute sense. Yeah, I think when something makes sense like that, and that having Trump and this administration and Congress being a GOP-led Congress, that is absolutely a possibility. And so you have to say, yeah, this would totally line up. Now, the midterms are maybe going to change things, because there's just a slim lead of the GOP in the House. They could lose some seats on the midterms, but that's why you're seeing all this new changing and gerrymandering around districts in Texas and California, and why people are evacuating from their posts, because they don't want to have to be present. So there's a very clear obstruction of that process happening. And so it'll be very interesting to see what happens with the hearings, and it will be very interesting to see the technology stuff. But as I've said before, I really do think that that's what's behind it. And would they have to give a little disclosure in that process? Yeah, they would definitely have to say there was a program, but it's not going to be full disclosure like you and I have always talked about. If anything, the whole experiencer part of all this has just been totally wiped away.
It's all about the technology, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the way the wind is going. The drones and advanced weaponry, and how that's going to be used. Because even in the age of disclosure, that's basically what Gary Nolan and Eric Davis were saying at the very end of the film. They were saying that there was a weapon that came down, an advanced weapon. They basically have that understanding in one of these SAPs. There was also advanced science and tech, and they were grappling with, and Travis Taylor came in and made a great interjection. It's like, we have to be responsible with what we have, and we want to share it with humanity, but we also have to be assessing constantly our adversaries and what they've already figured out and how this could be used against us. So all these people are really trying very hard for disclosure, but they're having personal, and philosophical and existential questions themselves about this technology and how advanced it is, and what we have, and what's good for humanity versus what's good for the US is a tough existential question for anybody at the end of the night.
What else is going on in the UFO world? As we have about 5 minutes to go before we go to break.
All right.
What else is catching your attention?
I just got to interview John Tedesco last night. It was an excellent interview. I got to ask some pointed questions about their study, their 10-month study at Robert Moses, their paralyzation on the beach when the light came down over the water and then they were directly hit. John described it as a surgical strike, you know, where he went down to the ground and was disabled and couldn't move his legs. He brought me totally up to speed on that they are working on it, you know, what happened, what they're looking into. So that was pretty amazing. The second thing is that they, you know, they were the ones out there on New York and Long Island when they were also doing investigations into the drone flap. So he gave some really great updates on that because he called what they found with their radar tracking and everything and their hyperspectral imagery or whatever it is, they found a gravitational lensing around these objects. And they were trying to determine if they had mass. And so he said that they've moved that forward. And he actually named the guy who they're doing studies with up in Canada, actually, Dave. And his name, I wrote it down for you last night when I did the interview. But he basically said it's like an Alcubierre. It's like an Alcubierre warp drive that they're looking into that might be what this gravitational lensing is putting out that they're seeing.
That's interesting.
So the guy in Canada, they're working with him. The Tedesco brothers are to drive that forward. So that's really exciting. His name is Chad Wanless. Chad Wanless. So he basically in that interview, you know, broke down some of these effects that they were seeing where there was like cohesed objects that they came together and then there was synchronization. He talked about all the different type of reflections that they caught on the UAP drone stuff with their Nightcrawler mobile unit. And then I just heard on this other interview with James Yandoli with Martin Willis that Martin Willis said that they got the nod from the government, that the government likes what they're doing and there's going to be a huge announcement soon. He didn't say what it was, but he basically said that, you know, their studies have essentially been approved by the government. So that's a really big breaking news and breaking story. People have been out there with Nightcrawler, various different people and experiencers doing some kind of protocol with them. I don't know how many people have been out, but they talked about that. So that's one big good piece of news.
So for people who don't know who the Tedesco brothers are, explain what they've done to become kind of, you know, into the UFO field.
They were originally looking at cancer clusters. They're two electronic engineers, the brothers, they're twins. And so that's how they got doing their work on like atmospheric stuff, taking out, you know, doing studies about cancer clusters and studying the atmosphere. And then they did this crossover where they had one unit that they built out and then they have another one and it's called Nightcrawler. Okay, so they did a 10-month study on UAPs out at Robert Moses State Park on New York on Long Island. Okay, it's a very big strip that goes out into a point and ends at a town called Montauk. So they're at Robert Moses, 10-month study. They're using FLIR. They have an expand radar, hyperspectral camera. So they have all these sensors, these advanced sensors, and they're able to use their sensors to detect UAPs and then also to do like analysis on them. So that's what they do. It's pretty cool. They have some high-end tech and it's very expensive. And so they've done a lot of interviews. They also wrote a book after the Robert Moses studies. I just had to plug my computer in, sorry. And that's called Eye on the Sky. So they've done a lot of work. They've done a lot of interviews. They're very accessible. They're great guys and they're kind of on the cutting edge.
Yeah, and you know what? They have, you know, built like a motor home that has all sorts of gear in it, and it's almost the same concept that Tim Senor and Terry Hall made a few years ago in Washington, or pardon me, in Oregon State, you know, and it's kind of interesting to see how they've kind of taken off with it. Courtney, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to get to some audience questions with Courtney Marchesani next. Spaced Out.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Let's give a shout out to Human Carl in the chat room tonight, and a big send him some love. He's going through a little bit of health issues right now, so let's make sure we all send him some positivity, some love, and healing, if you don't mind, because Human Carl is an important part of our chat room, guys. So let's send him some love. I'm sending love to you right now, Human Carl. Hope you could feel it, buddy. No, Human Carl. No. Human Carl, healing vibes. Oh, it feels good. Feels good. We love you, Human Carl. We do, buddy. Dr. Bob's Nightmare. 3 nights in a row. Look at you. You got a hat trick going on, Dr. Bob. What do you say there, Courtster?
Just as I was about to drink my iced tea, I say
I'm sorry.
I say it's great. What do you think?
So far, so good.
There's a lot of great stuff going on. I've been finding out about, this telepathy center and the non-speakers and all the work that's being done out there. And, the Skywatcher announcement that James Fowler just got a new government contract, that's big news. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
What kind of iced tea are you drinking there?
It's called Gold Peak.
Is that the raspberry one there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the raspberry.
You should have seen extra small Lee Strauss from our Element 115 show. He was up here last weekend, and he'd never tried ketchup or all-dressed potato chips before because you don't have them down there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan of the ketchup, but the all-dressed. So if you don't know what all-dressed chips are, is they take every flavor from chips, salt and vinegar, sour cream, barbecue, ketchup, and they mix them all together for what they call an all-dressed chip. They're phenomenal. And he fell in love with those. I think he probably bought about, 15 bags before he went home.
Well, my favorite Canadian thing, besides, my friends who are hunters up there who do the moose, it's also the poutine. I love poutine. I never eat it, but when I'm in Canada, man, I have to partake in some poutine. It's so good up there.
I love poutine.
The curds and whatnot. Oh my God. The gravy. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I haven't had in a while that I had today? I took my son to Dairy Queen and I had a banana split.
Wow. Decadent.
Oh,
that's just straight up summertime fun right there.
I feel so fat right now, but it was so worth it. It was so worth it.
Look, I'm in the opposite mode. I've been cleansing for like a month and a half now. And so I'm just like all greens, totally greens, protein. Yeah.
Do Canadians make maple syrup potato chips? No, but that sounds phenomenal.
Wow. That's a $1 million idea there. Develop that.
Oh, that sounds phenomenal. If you want to try something really, really good,
tell me.
Take maple syrup and dip a popsicle stick in the maple syrup, and on a snowy night where you get like lots of snow on the ground, roll the maple syrup stick in the snow. It's like eating candy.
I have done the fresh maple syrup in the snow before in Alaska. I have done that before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal.
Oh my God. I'm like the poutine. I can't get it out of my mind.
You know what we had happen today?
What's that?
My town never ever gets contrails by planes.
Oh,
Rarely do you see a
really?
contrail. Maybe
Okay.
twice, maybe once a week, if that. Okay. Today, in 4 straight lines, big aircraft flying over, and they were all equally apart. And like I'm talking, like they were definitely. I saw one of them. It was definitely 4-engined, which would the only real passenger plane on that now, because 747s are kind of passe now, is the Airbus A380. And I don't think 4 of them would fly over. So I think there were like 4 U.S. military aircraft flying over. They were going northeast. It was really weird because Canada only has 5 C-17s, and they're spread across the country. Hold on here. I'm sorry. Here we go. I apologize.
All right.
We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for enjoying these weird, wonderful topics that we bring to you nightly here on your local radio station, because we love it. We love being a part of your night. Courtney Marchesani is here. We have her till the top of the hour talking UFOs. We're going to take audience questions momentarily. But first, we want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon and the Space Travelers Club. Let's bring in Courtney hanging on out with us, and we're going to take some audience questions, Courtney, for you on the UFO subject. You ready?
Yep.
We're going to start with Paramarv here. Is there any chance Robert Salas will finally be testifying? His story would seem to fit their threat narrative.
Boy, that's a tough one. I would love to see him testify, but it's been so interesting when the Wall Street Journal article came out. His story was actually one that they, I'm sure that people would call it, debunking or whatever, but they produced some, illustrations and things that it was an advanced weapon. And then you have all the people that go in the history that say this wasn't possible at this time, and this would have to wheel out on a gantry to hit the silos and everything. So I don't think he will be. And the only reason I say that, even though I think his story is so credible out at Maelstrom, I do think that has tainted it.
For people who may not know who Robert Salas is, give a quick 30-second breakdown.
He was out at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, and several other people were also witnesses to this, but they had an emergency alert go off, and there was a phone call from the front gate that there were 2 bright red, orangish objects at the front gate. And of course, in Montana, we have tons of underground missile silos. You see them when you drive by, out in these lonesome highways. And so at that time, he testified, and other people did too, that all the nuclear stuff and all the stuff in the silos went down, and the power loss and everything else. And so it was an actually like emergency issue that they had to report on as military members. So that's the general gist of the story. I'm not an expert on Malmstrom, but there's a lot of information out there, including Robert's interviews and all of his history behind it.
All right, let's go next to Polly. Do you have any info on Steven Spielberg's new movie, Sources?
I just hesitate to even say, because it's with all these projects, we're talking about these film projects happening. And I will say that a lot of people are getting things confused. on David Grush and who he's consulting with, and people think it's the Spielberg movie. It was a producer or somebody that I talked to last week that made a clear differentiation for me, because I was talking about that. I was talking about the upcoming Spielberg movie and him consulting on it, and they cleared it for me and said he's consulting on the one with the guys that did the Top Gun movie. And so I am working on it. Yes.
Perfect.
Are there sources directly related to it? No, but there are people in Hollywood that are talking about it, and I'm talking to those folks.
All right, let's go to Super Crazy. Were you ever shown any unreleased high-quality UFO videos or photos that may shock us and the world? If yes, are they coming out anytime soon?
We've always been shown photos and videos in groups, and mostly from citizen scientists and things. And yeah, I have seen some amazing things, particularly orbs, the colors that they appear and how they phase shift. But will those things ever be entered into evidence? Probably not. A lot of them are being taken on, regular cameras, and they don't have the high quality. They're still good quality. And so, yeah, I have seen some amazing things. Nothing that's been ever classified, obviously, because that's illegal. The best things we got that were leaked were the Tic Tac and the gimbal. And even the gimbal now is being questioned as a UAP. So that's the short answer.
I like it. I'll give you points for that one. Let's go to Derek. Courtney, do you believe Jake Barber is a government plant sent into ufology?
I certainly think his story about redlining Michael Herrera is suspicious. I also think that the way the story changed, the way Michael Herrera told the story originally, and that the News Nation information that came out backed Herrera, but not certain parts of the story, and how that change happened through Jake is certainly questionable. There's also, his coming in to the SSIC and working to basically get other Black operators out of their Black programs in through the SSIC process. I also think that needs to be taken a look at. I also think that the history around Skywatcher and when it started, basically 5 years ago, according to James Fowler, that was really illuminating. So whether he's a plant to ruin ufology, I don't think so. But I think that his orientation to what he's doing should definitely be carefully considered by anybody evaluating it, his role.
Speaking of Skywatcher, why do you think James Fowler stepped down?
Well, as well as I, there was scuttlebutt, about 3 months ago that the contracts were all stalled. And then in addition to that, the contracts being stalled, then there was also another narrative that they had been bought out. That they actually, the ownership of the company or their incorporation or whatever, was somebody else came in. And so I don't know about any of that, the inside baseball around their incorporation or their agreements, but you saw him left because he got a new contract. And so they're very excited about it. They're saying congratulations, it's a wonderful thing. So I'm happy for him, because if he did studies at Skywatcher that is leading edge science, bringing it forward, good for him if he's going to be a contractor.
Love it. Okay, let's go on to another question here. I think there's more to get into there, but I do want to move on.
Yeah.
Let's go to May. Courtney, do you think they'll roll out the med beds they were supposed to give us back January 2025, which was talked about in late 2024? First off, explain to people what a med bed is.
Med beds haven't been talked about that much, but they're essentially like an advanced technology that people can go, and this is just the short version, lay down in and help with cellular tissue regeneration, immune system building. And it's like, I have never heard that we were going to get them in January 25. I have only heard of med beds being entered into discussions around Amy Eskridge's story, because she introduced med beds. But then John Ramirez just brought med beds up recently, and that they are a real concept. But I don't know. I don't know when that's coming and why it didn't come. But John Ramirez would probably be a good resource to ask about it, because he just brought it up recently in a public podcast.
Right. Okay, moving on here. Let's go to, let's find someone new here. Joseph is asking, is Peter Thiel taking over Project Bluebeam with the drones?
I mean, that is certainly out there. People are afraid that he's going to use the drones as like a spyware. We already know that Palantir was used in different like strikes, military strikes recently, and that they used Palantir and the information, the intelligence to do surgical strikes. People are concerned that that's going to be turned back on us. Now, we already have privacy issues. We essentially have no privacy because of the Patriot Act. But, you know, there's this huge lack of privacy now that we've become accustomed to and have accepted. So it's not a strange leap to think that this would be weaponized against us for surveillance, for spying, but they do that already. You know, I mean, there's already airplanes that have surveillance on them, and so it's not like it's not already happening. But will it be a Project Bluebeam thing? I pray not.
I hope not. I hope
I
not.
pray it's
We
not.
don't need a Project Bluebeam thing. Let's go to Walter here. Why won't another country initiate disclosure? Surely the U.S. isn't the only country with this information.
I think the Japanese, you know, when I got to go to Seoul Symposium last year, one of the Japanese delegates who came, he talked about their process. They do have a process for it. And the Japanese government, you know, basically has all their own ways of storing secrets and everything that. So I think Japan has a disclosure plan. Now, he is not in his position, the delegate that came. He set up like this group. I mean, this is all out there. You know, when they established the group, what they were hoping to accomplish, he actually stepped away from it, but it's still a group that is doing UAP disclosure in Japan. I do think that you know, obviously England and the British, they've just come out. They have a whole round of whistleblowers coming in to testify, or that's already happened. And so England is, I think that the Seoul Symposium being done in Italy is a major signaling that Italy is probably going to move forward with their history and also try to work towards disclosure. So I actually think there is a global effort happening right now in the EU, because groups are coming together in the EU. Jonathan Burt is a huge part of all that, connecting all the different countries. I have seen, you know, different groups in, you know, South America have been established. They're working hard. I mean, they have the whole mummy issue and the Peruvian, you know. But anyway, I think there are groups that are working on disclosure in their own countries.
I'd like to see it. I think there is, though, an economic tie to it. If you look at the Five Eyes, if you look at NATO, you look at NORAD, as somebody who's, you know, from outside the U.S., I see how in Canada, the U.S. really controls the UFO story.
Yeah, there is major overreach, and we saw that all play out. We saw that all play out with Mona Nemer and Larry McGuire being reached out to right from the U.S. and the Canadian response. Larry McGuire came to the first Seoul conference. I got to hear him talk on a panel and Q&A with Hal Puthoff, with Leslie Keane moderating. And so you could see how that reach happened and then what happened after. So it's interesting because we really do, I think, want to lead that effort and shepherd the way for Canada and Canada's own sovereignty. So, and its own legal political system. And that's one of the things that Larry McGuire said at the first Seoul, is that they didn't have access to classified information, your delegates. He did talk about in Parliament that they have a group that goes out into Washington, D.C., regularly for diplomacy. And he talked about how they're doing that with UAPs.
All right, let's hit another question here. Let's go to Polly. A threatening approaching craft threatened whistleblowers. Are we going to through Project Bluebeam right now?
Threatening approaching craft. Threat. Okay, well, there's always been threatening craft for some cases, right? We know some experiencers have threatening experiences, and it's very hard for them. There's the abductions. There's also trauma-induced experiences that happen through contact that are not positive in nature. Then there's, speculation that a lot of the advanced weaponry or the advanced aerospace stuff with propulsion or whatever the experiments are that they might be doing have had failures and injured people in that way, like Cash Landrum and the Allagash twins and other cases, and Colaris. And, there's a whole line of research around that. And that goes back a long way. So I don't think we're in Project Bluebeam because this has been happening. Various incidents have been happening all along the way. I think it's the breakdown in the military and the breakdown of some of these compartmentalized programs that they just can't shield from witnesses and people who are getting injured.
Speaking of which, today is the 70th anniversary of the Kentucky Goblins.
Really? I did not know that. Thank you for bringing that into
Yes.
my awareness, Dave. God, you got such the good tips and the good news. Interesting.
Well, I have to thank Dirty Filth for that one. So
Cool.
for people who don't know who the Kellyville or Kelly Hopkinsville, goblins are, the Kentucky Goblins, it is a sighting a family had of these really weird looking creatures. It almost looks like, if you remember Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, okay, but expand Stitch from the pudgy little blue character, stretch him out a couple of feet so he's nice and thin, and that's kind of what these creatures kind of look like. And for 2 days, they basically tortured a family of about 12 people in Kentucky. Location Christian County, and basically, wouldn't allow them out of the house. And these people were like shooting guns at them and trying to hit them. And there was no physical evidence of this, none. And this happened for 2 days, 2 nights, and poof, they just disappeared. The people went to the police. Police brought in the sheriffs, the deputies, and everything, to investigate, and they found nothing but bullet holes in screen doors and windows.
Well, that's often the case. I mean, and there's all these ancient storylines around the little people or the dwarves or, these various incidents that go way back. And so it's cool that you brought up the Kentucky Goblins because it's not a story that most people know.
I love it. Let's go to another question. Let's go to Super Crazy here. Are the UFO disclosure movies by Spielberg and one by Joseph Kaczynski with David Grush Consulting, plus the Age of Disclosure document and Jay Stratton's book all coming out soon? Is it just a coincidence?
No, I think that's narrative disclosure. And I think that there's a long history of the CIA and other agencies consulting with the entertainment industry. Short answer.
Do you think that it's all a big plan? That it's that controlled?
I do think it was, yeah. I obviously do. How can you explain the timing? Now, was there a one-off and somebody want to do a creative project? Sure, but a lot of times the CIA works directly with Hollywood. I mean, they come in and they essentially get training, on site at the agency, and these kind of contracts are set up. So I don't think they're all, CIA funded projects. Let me just say that. But there's a long history of that partnership between Hollywood and the intelligence community. I mean, for goodness sakes, the CIA used to call CNN when they were going to have an incursion or strike or something, so they would cover it, so they could be there and cover it. And not only that, there's also well established in Hollywood when they bring out a new plane or a new fighter jet or whatever, it's featured in the film. because it's like air dominance. It's U.S. air dominance. And so it's those kind of cross chatter things are allowed to happen. So the story's being told the right way. So do I think it's connected? Yeah. I don't know if they're all connected, but there's definitely a connection.
I had one former Air Force person that I speak to when Top Gun Maverick came out and they were showing the spy plane that he was testing out trying to fly to Mach 10. This person just said, "Have you seen Maverick yet?" I said, "Yeah, just saw it." He goes, "That's retired."
Oh, so it was old,
Yeah.
not new
Old,
tech.
old technology. He says that's retired.
Wow. Well, I think the drone stuff and the advancements in drones is just going to blow people's mind.
Oh, I think it's going to be a lot more fun. A lot more fun, especially if the technology comes out. That's where it's going to get fun. Let's go to the next one. Super Crazy is asking, what is your honest opinion on the Bigfoot phenomena and whether or not it's connected to the UFO phenomena? Little bit off topic, but we'll ask it.
That's okay, because my friends like Dave and DJ that are totally nuts, they've brought me into it, and I have followed projects and learned about it. It's connected. It's connected. You can't explain how people are out there putting out recordings of former screams that were recorded, and then there's activity. So I didn't used to believe in Bigfoot before, but now I do, because when you see these expeditions where they go out in the middle of the woods and there's patterns and the tree branches are moved a certain way, or there's a gifting field and, something arrives, you just can't deny it. And not only that, there are lights. There's a light phenomenon that happens with Sasquatch research. Orbs show up. So yeah, I also connected that way.
I'm taking my dad out tomorrow night
to
go Bigfooting.
Good.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm taking him to the scary site. I would say, we had, speaking of technology.
You're brave, and he is too for going with you.
He's so freaked out. He is so freaked out. It's awesome. It's awesome. But we had a trail camera up for 7 days. 7 days on a very, very busy animal trail.
Uh-huh.
Not one photograph.
Really?
Not one. So Tim thinks that the camera may have screwed up somehow, or maybe he screwed it up while it was up in the tree. He takes it home to test the camera, does it the exact same way, sets it up, photographs all over the place.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I set up 2 trail cams on the farm, and boy, that's quite the job but anyway, did you see the photos I put up of the huge black bear and the huge buck?
No.
Oh, I'll send them to you.
Please do.
Off channel, I'll send them.
Please do.
Yeah.
I just got my hunting tags earlier today, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm like, I literally said to the lady at the window, I said, yeah, these 2 deer tags are pretty much a donation. I said, because I really like deer and I just do not see myself harvesting one.
Oh, I grew up with it. I grew up with the person, like, when you don't have your license yet, they used to say, Courtney, go down underneath. And there would be like this little rabbit patch that I have to crawl into. It was totally hazing. They were terrible, but I could get down in there. And so I would push the deer out. It's not something I ascribe to now as an adult, but I did do it. I made my contribution.
Well, let me tell you something here. I could tell you, I really like the deer. I did not get a bear tag. I did not get a moose tag. Moose tags are limited entry around here.
Right.
But I did get a whitetail and a mule deer tag, and I can tell you right now, I just wasted like $60. Just wasted $60 right there because I know I'm not going to shoot a deer. I'm not that good of a shot. Number one, but number two, I like deer. I like looking at deer. I love everything about deer. Watching them when they're in my yard and the little babies are running around like they are right now. I like that. So I just can't see myself harvesting one, but that's okay.
We
And
learn it very early, and it's a pretty traumatic thing, but you just learn to do it in the country. You have
oh,
to.
you have to. You have to.
Yeah.
Courtney, thank you for coming back on Spaced Out Radio. We will talk to you very, very soon.
All right.
Coming up next, Swamp Dweller, and then little Timmy James will be here for the UFO report. We'll be right back, everybody.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Yeah, Tim and I, he goes, I think Tim and Dave are going to be sick on September 10th. Yes.
Well, I gotta,
Yes.
I gotta tell you this one story, and we'll do it offline. But it's so funny. It's about my brother-in-law and his father or grandfather out hunting, or he's just out in the woods. And you just remind me to tell you the good Lord's
I will.
servant story.
I will.
All right.
We'll talk soon, okay?
Right on. I'll be up.
All right. Courtney Marchesani, everybody. I'll be right back. Let's bring in little Timmy James.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm good, man.
I love Courtney when she's on. I just love it.
Oh, yeah. It's in depth, man.
Deep,
In depth.
deep dive.
Oh, yeah. All right. Swampy will be... Let me just look up here. Delete that one. Swampy will be about 2 minutes, 26 seconds.
Roger that.
Then you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. No politics tonight. Yes.
Nice.
I know.
Nice.
I know. I was
Nice.
like, my God.
I'm looking forward to Saturday, man.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to take 2 vehicles in.
Yeah.
So,
Do that.
and then when you get to the gully there, I'll have to.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out there.
Be the ferryman.
Yeah, I might put one of the, because my dad and his friend are coming,
Mm-hmm.
so I might have to put one of the friends with you, or my dad with you, or something like that.
Whatever. Yeah. No, it all works, man.
All right, 5 seconds. Thank you to Richard Minnick for becoming the newest member on our YouTube membership. Here we go. Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is a busy one, and we're getting it underway right now. My name is Dave Scott. This is the night that you enjoy the weird and strange, as you do each and every night with us. So thank you very much for tuning us in and making our radio stations happy. Happy, happy, happy. It's such a happy place. And for you. All right. I want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon and the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Zero Tripsis. Zero Tripsis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, I had a disturbing encounter with a creature or entity. I lived in the Appalachian mountain range of Pennsylvania. It was November when around daylight savings time occurred. I remember it was supposed to be a school day, but since the heavy snow came down, the buses could not drive out in the morning, so school was canceled for a snow day. I was excited to spend the rest of the day in the snow, playing and exploring. We had an acre of property going quite far back into the woods. I walked deep into the forest to a small frozen pond past my property line. Suddenly, the woods went dead silent. No sounds of birds, no wildlife scurrying around, absolutely nothing. I remember thinking it was strange, but kept walking to make it to the pond. I should have turned around right then and there and just went home, but I was just a naive little kid. After I reached the pond, everything was still completely silent, and the hairs on the back of my neck felt like they were rising. I started to get frightened, but I didn't know why. I felt like something terrible would happen to me if I didn't leave right then and there. So I decided, out of some random spark in my brain, to run back home. As I arrived at my backyard, I realized it was so late, and the sun was setting. My mom came running outside asking where I was all day, and never disappeared like that again. Now, none of this made any sense to me, because I had only been out for about 20 minutes or so. I left my house in my snow gear at around 10 a.m., right after the snow day call. It was almost 8 p.m., meaning I had been gone for 10 hours. I have had no idea how this happened and how I had been gone for that long. I only remember being out there for maybe a 15 to 20 minute period. I don't know if this has anything to do with any kind of cryptids or any kind of weird supernatural elements, but I do know it was very similar to the things I've heard on the Swamp Dweller YouTube channel in the past when it came to missing 411 videos. Has anyone else ever had this happen to them? Was it some sort of creature? I didn't see anything at all while out there. I didn't lose track of time, and I didn't fall and hit my head or anything. What do you think happened? Please let me know in the comments, and thank you, Swamp Dweller, for sharing this experience. I know it might not be super terrifying, but the details surrounding this experience will forever have me scratching my head.
Thank you, Swampy, for another great story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel. He has literally hours upon hours of listening entertainment for you regarding weird, strange encounters with cryptids and monsters. Let's go to the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Here comes little Timmy James and the UFO report. Tim, before we get started, I have to tell you, I went to our local sports store today.
Yes.
And I talked to the owner there. You know him, Mr.
Yes,
Jude.
I do so.
And I actually showed him the picture of the droppings, the scat that we found.
Ah, good call. And?
He doesn't know what it is.
No way.
He says it looks like baby horse droppings.
Right?
But he said it wouldn't be cat. It's definitely not bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not moose or deer.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I really don't know what this is. He goes, but if I were to put my perspective on it, it would be probably a baby horse. We would have heard the horses.
Oh, no question.
We would have heard them.
Yeah.
We would have heard them. So the mystery on the unknown poop continues.
Yes. And for him not to recognize that is quite shocking, because that guy's been hunting, I think, before he was even out of diapers. So for you to walk up and show him that and him go, I don't know. Like,
for people who don't know who we're talking about, we live in a very small town. There is only one hunting fishing store in our town. The guy has literally owned it. It's family operated for literally the last 40 to 50 years.
Yeah.
And this gentleman knows a lot about the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. And he's a prepper and a survivor too. So if anybody's going to know, it's going to be him. And that's why I took it to him. He could not identify it.
Huh.
He could not identify it. Like with he wasn't saying that it wasn't an animal, but he's like, this is weird. He goes, I've never seen the photos. And in fact, he had seen the photos that I'd put on Facebook.
Okay.
You know, so it's hard for us to do a culture or anything. Like, I think probably Saturday we should bring a Ziploc and grab a couple of the pieces of it, just in case we can find a scientist who may want to look at it.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that maybe we might be onto something here.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we do that for sure. No, I'm kind of glad that he didn't know what it was, because that just kind of adds a little more mystery to it. That's for sure.
Totally does. It totally does. No, we did not taste it. It's in our chat room from Ormane. Did you taste it? No, but Tim did sift it through his fingers.
I did.
Yeah.
And then I had a sandwich right after.
Yeah, you did. That was awesome.
I know everybody's looking at me like, what are you doing? Eating?
Right. There you go. There you go. What do you got for us tonight, my man?
Oh, well, Mr. Stephen Greer's back in the news. Stephen, a prominent figure in UFO disclosure, claims to possess a dead man switch that could dismantle a secretive group he alleges controls extraterrestrial technology and suppresses its release. Greer, a former emergency room physician and founder of the Disclosure Project, says the mechanism would automatically release sensitive information if he were harmed or unalived. The claim surfaced in discussion today, tied to his ongoing work to expose what he describes as a transnational cabal managing covert programs involving non-human intelligence and advanced energy technologies. Greer asserts the information, if released, would reveal details about black projects and free energy systems that could disrupt the global economic order, particularly the petrodollar system. He argues this cabal blocks disclosure to maintain control over these technologies. The dead man switch, described in a 2013 document linked to his documentary Sirius, is framed as a safeguard to ensure his findings reach the public if he faces threats. The document also outlines a hypothetical technology to prevent unauthorized access to advanced spacecraft, requiring regular human interaction to avoid self-destruction. Skeptics question the credibility of Greer's claims, noting the lack of verifiable evidence in the document and his history of controversial statements. Critics argue that if the information is as transformative as claimed, releasing it now could achieve his goals without delay. So Greer counters that premature release might trigger catastrophic consequences, likening it to global Samson option. That could destabilize society. He insists the cabal's mindset prevents them from recognizing the broader implications of their secrecy. The concept of a dead man switch is not unique to Greer. It refers to a fail-safe mechanism that activates automatically if its operator is incapacitated, often used as a threat to deter harm. Greer's version, however, centers on information rather than a physical device, aligned with his narrative of systemic cover-ups. While some supporters view his efforts as a bold stand against powerful forces, others dismiss them as speculative, citing his commercial ventures like UFO tours as undermining his credibility. The debate continues with no concrete evidence yet to substantiate the existence or impact of his alleged switch.
Here's the thing with Stephen Greer. Okay. I think he's connected. I think he is somebody who is very well versed in this topic. The problem, or one of the problems that Stephen Greer has with his credibility, is the amount of times he's cried wolf.
Yes.
And I don't think after so many times, like dozens of times, that he says his life is on the line, that, you know, that this could happen anytime. His amount of times that disclosure was supposed to happen and bubble over finally, and it never happens. I think people have kind of put him in that category of, oh, there's Stephen Greer talking again.
Right.
Now, Stephen Greer's followers and people who believe in him are going to believe everything he says. You know, and that's, hey, we have people who believe us. We have people who don't believe us, and that's okay. But I think for the whole public aspect of it, too many times he is called, you know, the sky is falling, and it just never seems to happen. Yeah. And I think people have kind of put him in a category of, well, there he is again. Thanks for nothing. No offense, but we're not going to buy this one. You know, so you just kind of look at it. That's the way I look at it. What's your thoughts?
No, I agree too. I agree. I think that I firstly, I do think he's very versed in what he's doing. I think he's done a lot of study. I believe in his knowledge. I think that, in my opinion, that he maybe inadvertently, I don't know, he embellishes on his stories a bit. I think he believes them, but I'm not sure if he's actually stating facts sometimes. Like you said, I mean, he summoned the Phoenix Lights, right? He did that on the flight in, and, you know, whatever. And I find his stories at times to be a little over exaggerated and a tad unbelievable. But again, that doesn't make them untrue. It just makes them harder for me to believe because they seem so out there, you know.
I don't believe the Phoenix Lights one for a second.
Oh, come on.
You don't come out. You don't come out literally. What was it? 28 years later, and say, "Oh, I did that
on the anniversary." Yet that too.
On the anniversary, yeah, that was me. I did that.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
No. Sorry, you just don't get to do that one.
No, I agree.
You don't get to do that one. What else you got for us?
Well, former Green Beret Randy Anderson has claimed he encountered what he described as off-world technology during a 2014 visit to an underground facility at the Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division in Indiana. Anderson, who was at the facility for advanced weapons training, said he and another soldier were escorted deep underground to a secured area labeled off-world technology. There, he reported seeing a metallic basketball-sized sphere levitating above a podium, which he described as appearing unnatural and unlike any known material. He also observed a bracelet-like device displaying holographic symbols resembling hieroglyphs, which he was told had caused the unaliving of a person involved in its recovery. Anderson, speaking to Jesse Michaels, said the experience left him unsettled, with the objects defying his understanding of physics. He noted that instructors of the facility treated the display as routine, which added to his unease. Anderson also mentioned working as a contractor at Area 51, where he claimed to have seen triangular craft and anti-gravity capabilities. He said his decision to speak out was influenced by other whistleblowers like David Grush, who have shared similar accounts. The Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division is a U.S. naval facility focused on technical support and engineering for military systems. Anderson's claims suggest it may also house classified projects involving advanced or non-human technology, though no official confirmation exists. Some online discussions have questioned the plausibility of his account, citing the unlikelihood of a training participant accessing such sensitive materials and the overt labeling of a secret facility. Others noted his military credentials, including a weapons training certificate from Crane, lend some credibility to his presence at the site. The claim remains unverified, and the Navy has not publicly addressed them. That would be weird.
I wonder if he's going to be one of the potential speakers coming up at the hearings.
I was wondering the same thing when I ran across this, because I remember reading a story with some of that information in it before, and I was like, dang, I wonder if he's going to be out there, because he didn't. I think the first time he came out with his stories, he was quite tentative and quite timid, and he really didn't want to get into it. And then all of a sudden he's like, bam, okay, I'm out, and I'm going to tell this one over again, but with better detail. I was like, okay, interesting.
It is interesting because, eventually some of these encounters are going to come through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They are going to be coming out eventually. When, how much, we don't know. We just cannot put a timeline on that as it kind of moves forward. But I mean, if you look at it, encounters like this and what he has to say and what he experienced, we are going to get more and more out like that. The problem is there a paper trail that goes along with it? That's the issue. Where's the paper trail?
Yeah. True.
And eventually, hopefully, at some point, that paper trail comes through.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're needing. Because
Exactly.
otherwise, this is just going to remain, his story is no better than what, and this isn't any offense to the gentleman.
No,
but his story is no better than what you and I are doing out at Flight 21.
Right.
Exactly. like things that we have had happen out there, but we haven't caught on camera.
Fair enough. Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So eventually our audience watching the series of Secrets in the Forest, they're going to say, Dave, why aren't you catching this? Why aren't you're telling us about it? You were there, it happened, but where's the evidence? Where's the proof?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No,
that's what it comes down to.
Sure it does.
We got
For
about 4.5 minutes. What else you got for us?
All right. So in 2011, a disturbing encounter took place in the remote tundra of Kugaruk, a small Inuit community in Nunavut, Canada, far from the reach of mainstream UFO attention. A 29-year-old hunter named Ikwalak, in a rare oral account recorded by a local elder and later transcribed in an obscure Inuit cultural journal, was tracking caribou alone at dusk when the temperature dropped unnaturally fast and his dogs began whimpering, refusing to move. He noticed a low hum, like a vibration in his bones, and saw a faint, pulsating blue light hovering over the frozen creek bed about 100 meters away. Ikwiluk described a shape, not quite a craft, but a shimmering void roughly the size of a small house, with edges that seemed to blur into the air. From it emerged two figures, tall and impossibly thin, with no clear limbs or heads, just shifting forms that seemed to flicker like heat waves. They didn't approach him, but appeared to study the ground, moving in a way that made no sounds or tracks in the snow. Ikwalak felt an overwhelming sense of being watched, not by eyes, but by something that knew his thoughts. He later recalled a sharp pain behind his eyes and a fleeting image of his own body lying lifeless on the tundra, as if projected into his mind. The figures vanished into a void which collapsed inward and disappeared, leaving only the hum fading into silence. His dogs bolted, and he found no physical evidence, not even disturbed snow, when he mustered the courage to approach the spot. What makes this encounter particularly unnerving is the aftermath. He suffered recurring nosebleeds and nightmares of the tundra splitting open beneath him. His caribou rifle, which he carried that night, was later found to be magnetized and jamming its mechanisms inexplicably. He shared the story only with his elders, refusing to speak to outsiders, fearing spiritual repercussions of disbelief. The account never spread beyond the community, as Kuguruluk's isolation and lack of internet access at the time kept it from wider notice. Skeptics might attribute it to hypothermia-induced hallucination, but the magnetized rifle and his lasting psychological distress, described as a fear of being unmade, suggested something more tangible. The absence of the defined craft, the formless entities, and the invasive mental imagery make this obscure case deeply unsettling, untouched by typical UFO narratives.
I believe this guy's story.
Me too.
I totally believe it. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, the Inuit people are extremely brave, resilient. Nothing phases them. Mm-hmm. They've been face to face with polar bears. They've been face to face with muskox, wolf packs, you name it.
Yep.
Okay. When you live in that environment, you know your environment more than anything, because there isn't a lot of people up there. Mm-mm. And these people are so in tune with the land that they know an anomaly when it happens.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No question.
And the fact that there is physical evidence about this, I would love to find out where that gun went.
Yeah, no kidding.
I would love to find out more about that, you know, because this is something where there is physical evidence.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe his story, but, you know, for the gun to become magnetized and then to jam up, that just doesn't happen when you're out in the snow.
No, definitely. That is definitely, it's most certainly incredible. I've never seen it, heard of it, or anything like that before. So I believe him too. I believe it too. And I think his lack of it being mainstream, I think sometimes lends a lot of credibility to these stories as well, right? So maybe we'll look him up, get him on the show.
That would be great.
Wouldn't it?
And I hate to sound not understanding. I don't even know if they have internet up there in certain communities.
Probably not.
Maybe Starlink. Little Timmy James with the UFO report. Great job. Dave 101, the weird news of the week.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host,
Easter.
Hey, Timmy.
Yes, sir.
I know I don't usually ask you
Mhm.
to stick around for the next half hour.
Mhm.
Okay, but I think this is one you may want to if you have time.
Okay. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
push it for a bit.
I've kept this from you.
Uh-oh.
I'm just saying, I've kept this from you. Yeah.
No worries.
But there is a reason.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
I just can't say. I'm holding off. Actually, I will say this. It involves Lolly.
Mm.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, that sounds good. No problem.
Mm-hmm. So.
Lale, lale, lale.
I think it'll be good. Don't forget, next week, we are going to be Tim and I are going to be redoing the studio next week, so there will be no live interview shows, but there is a good opportunity to actually potentially get with us online during the time we are working in studio, because we are going to be doing audio tests and everything as we make some audio. So we'd love it if you come hang out with us. We do.
For sure.
And we're going to do, like I said, a shift in the studio here, kind of make things a little bit more modern and updated rather than just looking like a bunch of clutter, which I'm kind of over.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to figure it out. We're going to get things going and kind of go from there. Big thank you tonight to Richard Minnick for becoming the newest member of our YouTube membership. I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to do there, and I will be taking ideas on that, because it's easy for me to hop on and just say, hey, how you doing, for an hour or so and have a private conversation, but I want to be able to do a little bit more than that. Thank you, Adam, for Christ. Appreciate you coming on in and joining our chat. Thank you. Says, yeah, for this cool and interesting stuff. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Will the swag be ugly during the remodel? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. But we are going to be taking that break. It's much needed, because there's a lot of things that we have to try and figure out what we're doing here in studio, how we want to set it up. And, we got a couple of technical issues like the cameras that we got to figure out. I got a new mixing board that we got to set up here as well. So there's a lot that needs to go on as we continue it. So we just want to kind of let you guys know what's happening, so that way you're not caught off guard. Yeah.
Right on. That's going to be good.
It will be. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're just doing it.
Apparently Lee does.
Yeah. I do have an idea, though.
Cool. All right.
I do have an idea. Instead of facing this way, we're going to face the TV way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Or we're going to face the window way.
And have the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be this way or this way.
Right.
But not this way or this way.
Yeah, no. Side to side, not front to back.
Going this way, not this way.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah.
Yes, eventually here. Eventually. I would say within the next couple months, Tim will have a new chair.
Yeah, it won't be like this.
Actually, in fact, I think my dad is bringing one up tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we'll toss the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. When is the next Flight 21 video coming out? We just put the one out that I screwed up on, so it will be next week.
Yeah.
That it'll be out.
Yeah. So we'll have
The reason why we're going to every 2 weeks now on the Flight 21 videos is because there's going to come a time where hi Philip Blair. There's going to come a time where we need to stop going there.
Mhm.
Okay, because of the winter coming, and there's going to be a time where we're not going to be able to get out there for at least 5 months,
Mhm.
4 to 5 months, depending on the snow. We're going to go as long as we can, but once that snow gets thick, we're not going to be able to get in there. It's just too dangerous. So we'll figure that out as we go. All right, we got about 15 seconds. Thank you to Bob, Pam, Mel, Joe, JSCO, and CS for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. And we're coming back here in 5 seconds, everybody. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. The Dave 101 is coming up next, along with the weird news of the week. So we got a jam-packed half hour for you. Hey, we want to remind everybody, if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's that time of the night, that time of the week, where I yell at each and every one of you to get off my lawn. It's a Dave 101.
Open up the doors, Dave. Who? Dave. What is this?
It's a Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
It's a mess.
We're going to do this a little bit differently tonight. I've actually got Tim James hanging on out here because we want to talk about tonight the dangers of going into places that you are not familiar with. And what I mean by this is Flight 21. Now, there are areas all around North America and the world that literally have these hotspots that are weird, strange, where you do not know what's coming around the next bend, the next corner, or coming off the next trail. We are experiencing that, Tim and I, on a very weekly basis when we head out there. And one of our investigators, Lolly Bennett, came out with us. She is our First Nations drummer and singer, and we wanted to see how things would go with her out there. And I've been out there twice with her, Tim once. And she hasn't been back since. And a lot of people on our YouTube channel and on our social media are asking, when is Lolly coming back out?
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had an answer, but I don't. Well, I kind of do. And that is, she doesn't know. Now, it isn't anything Tim has done or I have done. No. It's about what the location has done. Now, Tim and I have been very, very open to the fact that Flight 21 is not for everybody. There are people up there who have gone up there who the energy has just shifted into something negative or something unresponsive. The phenomena really dictates who is allowed up there and who is not. It's going to be interesting to see this weekend how the phenomena reacts with my dad up there. And I'm curious about that because really, my dad isn't invited, but he's got a curiosity that I figured, you know what, at 76 years old, he could go wherever he wants. If he wants to hang out with me in the forest, by gosh, he's going to do that. And that's what we're going to do. But as Lee Strauss from Element 115 on our YouTube channel explained a little bit to us, with Merle, and even after the weekend when we were up there. He said, this is a different place. Everything that you guys have said on the air is true and more. But I want to bring up Lolly's story here for a second, because I've been concerned with her, because recently she was very excited to be a part of this project, still is.
Mhm.
Okay. So this started earlier this month, where I said, making sure you're going in for tonight. And she goes, I've been doing lots of integration and my body is catching up to upgrades and transmutation of energies. Fascinating and beautiful. I've checked in with my intuitive guidance every day since you asked whether or not I should go tonight, and I keep getting a no. Learning to trust, so I won't be able to come tonight. My body is fatigued. It needs time to catch up. I'll hold harmonic resonance here while you're there. Not a problem. Tim and I have a rule that basically says, if you're not feeling up to it that night, we don't go.
No.
Okay. If Tim's not feeling up to it, or I'm not feeling up to it, we don't go. That's already happened during our investigation. Correct, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Definitely.
So last week, I sent her another message. I said, we'd love to have you join on Saturday. She says, I don't feel myself. This week has been very challenging. Not sure if it's related or not to our visits, but it started Saturday and I've had a difficulty on and off with fear, panic, and doubt. Your thoughts? She says, I feel vulnerable and exposed. Doing all my checks and holding love and peace within it comes and goes, but it's uncomfortable for sure. I said, well, this is new to you. We are talking or taking you into realms you don't know about. But you are safe. The doubt you have is normal. So out of that, because we are heading into another weekend, I've been following this up.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm checking in to see how you're doing today. She goes, honestly, I wonder if something may have attached to me because what I experienced the last couple of weeks was not pleasant. LOL. Do you think that is possible? I felt so much fear and doubt for a few days after the full moon that I was seriously concerned for my well-being, full of dips of anxiety, which is not normal to me. I know it's new because I have been exposed to other realms and beings before and have had this feeling of not being safe before. I am now getting to the point I can talk about it without feeling it in my body, but it's subtly there. The negative loops of thoughts was unsettling for sure. How have your last couple visits been? She says, I've really felt like I did something wrong and exposed myself to something I wasn't ready for or not strong enough for. It has been a challenge to balance it back out. Here's my response to it. I said, the last couple of visits have been interesting. We've needed you there, to be honest. I have a feeling I know what's going on. You don't have an attachment. Spiritually, the phenomena is awakening you. It could be scary. This has happened to me. It happened years ago. We could definitely work with you on this. She goes, I'm not sure I'm ready to go back out yet, but definitely open to further discussions. It was intense, and I really felt like I was under attack.
Oh.
So this is something that we have to deal with. No, it's not demonic. Now, it's easy for me to say that, okay, but nobody up there has ever felt anything demonic. We throw around the word demon or demonology or demonic very easily. Here's my thing with it, Tim, and the reason why I read that, and that's a very personal conversation that, maybe I shouldn't have said it, but when you go into these locations and you are not prepared, see, Lolly is somebody who is building up her spiritual well-being.
Mhm.
We are into an area where the phenomena dictates what happens. It's not my spirituality. It's not Tim's spirituality. It's nothing about that. It's about the phenomena pushing you to realms and experiences that you may not be ready for. The one thing that I've learned about the phenomena over the years is that it literally will give you as much as it thinks you can handle.
Mm.
And I truly believe that Lolly got a little spooked with how close those tree knocks were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The week before, the unsettled energies of smelling a wet dog. Remember that?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So any demon talk can get off my lawn. That's for sure. Right? Totally get off my lawn. We're not talking that. We're not talking demons, man. Everything's demons with people. No, what I don't think or feel that anything is attached to her. But what I do feel is that the phenomena is like, okay, Lolly, you want to play the game? Let's see what you can take. Let's see what I'm going to feed you a bunch of woo here, and we're going to actually see how much you could take. It's happened to me, Tim. It's happened to you up there already, where you have questioned your own morality, your own sanity, your own worries, and to the point where you were actually holding back information. Okay. And now, as we've talked about it and as we've discussed it, you feel a lot more open and candid to take that conversation and say, well, let's see what happens.
Yes, 100%.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, it's true. And you're right. I felt, there was a lot of, well, not a lot. I shouldn't say it like that. Yes, there was some points where, it seemed to challenge to see how much we can take. And it was, Lolly got a lot of response. I mean, I don't blame her one little bit. She's, as far as I'm concerned, she falls under the same rules that you and I do. If you don't want to be there, then don't be there. That's if you trust your gut, right? But she got so much response from her drumming. She was picking up on stuff without you and I even hinting. We just walked around and she'd stop. And we're kind of doing that behind her and smiling like, man, she's nailing it. So I would say, I think that they accepted her. Whatever's up there that accepted us has accepted her. But I think it came at her a lot harder and faster than it did with us. I think we were kind of kid gloved in where, they just were like, hey, we like her. And everything glommed onto her and basically came and, talked to her and all that sort of stuff. And I think it was a little overwhelming and I don't blame her. I think she just needs to kind of ground herself again. And I'm really hoping that she comes back up.
Well, you know what? And here's the thing, and I don't say this to be insultive to Lolly or anybody else out there, but there's a lot of spiritual growth in a lot of people out there who think this is all peace, love, and light. If I could clear my chakras, if I could clear my mind, if I could clear my soul spiritually and bring in the good, exit the bad, I'm going to be great. That is such a small speck of the phenomena that if you all of a sudden get thrust into a situation where you now are dealing with something that is controlling an area like we have at Flight 21, it's difficult to try and make sense of it.
Yes.
And when you're not used to the energy, you are not used to the phenomena acting in this realm because it is out of your comfort zone. That's where you get a little bit more of a, how can I put it? A discernment of what is not comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think the phenomena has hit her. It's punched her right in the gut, unfortunately. But it did that to me. I survived and, I became a lot stronger. And I think that she will eventually come back. I really do. And I hope so, at least.
Me too.
So we need her out there. We do. What she made happen, both occasions, was absolutely phenomenal. Pun intended with the word phenomena. And that's what we have to concentrate on. And I will be talking to her a little bit more to kind of ease her tension around going back there. Because locations like Flight 21 or Skinwalker Ranch, Bradshaw Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch, or any other place of extreme high strangeness, it's not a tourist attraction. It is not something that you can just sit there and say, well, guess what? I'm going to be a part of this, and I'm going to bring out my little EMF detector, or I'm going to bring out my ghost box and do some EVPs. You have to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when Tim and I have come out of Flight 21 where we're like, should we actually go back?
Yep.
Okay. Is it worth going back? And yet here we are, and here we go. Just like we will this weekend, we will the weekend after, and the weekend after, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. But that's what we are doing. That's the way we're going to take it. And for Lolly, I just hope that she could get over her fear and get over her anxiety of the area and the phenomena. And if she does, boy, is it going to be phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So now you know what's going on. Timmy James, thank you for sticking around for that. Appreciate your opinion.
Yeah.
All right. As we say goodnight to Tim, we're going to fire up the weird news of the week.
Scott is my witness. I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
All right, let's get it going. We're going to start with the WNBA here, where an Ohio man has turned himself into police after allegedly throwing a green sex toy during the New York Liberty game that struck a 12-year-old girl in the leg. Oh, come on. Come on. Who does that? There's kids there, man. 32-year-old Charles Burgess apparently does. He's from Dayton, Ohio. He was arraigned on 10 criminal charges, including felony assault with a weapon. Well, I didn't know a sex toy could be a weapon, but you learn something new every day. Interfering with a sporting event and obscenity. The man's lawyer says prosecutors want to find others throwing similar sex toys at women basketball players. According to a report by ESPN, there is a nationwide publicity effort underway to market a new crypto coin that involves throwing green sex toys, often in the shape of a penis, at WNBA players. According to Burgess's lawyer, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office wants to crack down on this trend. Yep. The Brooklyn DA's office has indicated a desire to speak to the defense, particularly in regards to others' involvements in the fast-spreading phenomena occurring at WNBA venues. Paul D'Amelia wrote in an email. The Brooklyn DA's office declined to comment. D'Amelia said Burgess surrendered to authorities in Brooklyn after driving overnight from Ohio, where he owns an auto body shop and has 6 children. Authorities said on August 5th, Burgess threw the green sex toy that hit a girl in her right leg before fleeing on foot. The victim experienced pain but was not hospitalized. Well, that's good. Burgess pleaded not. I don't mean to laugh. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. A judge released him pending a December court date. Yeah, he intends to vigorously fight these embellished and exaggerated charges, says his lawyer. No one was actually struck by the object, rendering any of the included assault charges unsustainable. Why would you bring a sex toy to a WNBA game? I don't get it. Maybe that's just me. I just don't get it. All right, let's see if we got another one here. All right, there are plenty of places where no one would bat an eyelid at the sighting of a thong bikini on a beach in Brazil or around Love Island fire pit. Visible butt cheeks are practically de rigueur. But first sighting this year was not while surfing in Australia, sunbathing in the Caribbean, but in the open water swimming spot on a rainy day in Scotland. Yeah, apparently this phenomena of showing butt cheeks, both men and women, is catching on very much. Now, the writer says they should not have been surprised. Tiny swim gear is huge news this summer. It's no longer confined to sunny climates, but cropped up everywhere from Lidos to leisure centers and locks in between. The trickle down from catwalks and influencers and holiday makers and lingerie stores really has pushed the limit on this. A search for thong bikini on Assos yields 187 results, ranging from the high leg styles to side ties to tanga, whatever that is, somewhere between a thong and a standard brief, apparently. Well, this is going on all over the place, says Victoria. She says, I won't lie. It's really nerve-wracking initially when she wore a thong for the first time on a recent solo trip to Naples. And for many new converts, part of the appeal laying in fact that she would be able to avoid the significant tan lines created by fuller coverage swimwear. I saw thong bikinis everywhere, and I wished I could wear one, but then I thought about it, and I was like, it's just a bum. Many men wear these teeny tiny trunks where you could see everything, so why can't I wear this? Plus, it's really comfy. Well, apparently it's going all over the place. Gen Z in particular are less inclined to restrict themselves to clothes, deeming it flattering, a term that has fallen spectacularly out of favor. Thong bikinis, though, once the preserve of those who conform to the particular body type, are now being manufactured into a more inclusive range of sizes and marketed more diversely. Women of all shapes and sizes are leaning into bolder cuts with real confidence as a part of wider cultural shift forward toward body positivity. You know what? I'm going to say this. I know I'm a dude, okay? I know I'm a dude. But ladies, if you're comfortable doing that, go for it. Go for it. Why not? Why not? If men can wear these really skimpy banana hammocks, okay, you go, girl. You show off those butt cheeks and you make sure those tan lines are good for you. Nobody else. Do it for yourself because you're lovely no matter who you are, what size you are. You're all beautiful out there because Dave is just spreading the love when it comes to whatever women want to do. You know what? That's what you get for being a father of two girls. You know? Just absolutely go for it. And hey, if you like the old school ways of covering up your butt cheeks, you can do that too. That's all you can do. Do what makes you feel comfortable. That's what life is all about. As we say goodnight to all of you, hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for your guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friend, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Whew, I made it. Gesundheit. Sorry about that. That should be the start of about 4 or 5 more. All right. Here comes number 2. All right. All right, let's publish that. Ouch. My goodness, I love this time of year because it's warm during the day, but then it gets sitting here with the sitting here with the window open in the studio, and it's like getting really chilly out, to the point where your feet get cold. It's pretty awesome right now. Nope, don't need that one. Need this one open. Mooden's Mogul has a collection of thongs. I already looked for those Moodens. They don't have them. Good night, Richard Minnick. Thank you for becoming a member of our channel. All right. I'm going to get editing here. I'm going to say goodnight to all of you. John Billingsley is our guest tomorrow night. We're going to talk about anomalies in the sky. The guy's a lawyer who had a UFO encounter, and it just will not shake out of his head. Now he's become a researcher digging into the UFO world. We're going to chat with him tomorrow night. Thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney, CS, JSCO, Bob, Pam Harris, Mel WD40, and Cosmic Joe for the great super chats. I appreciate your love and support. And thank you again to Richard Minnick for becoming the latest member of our YouTube chat room. Thank you very much. We will see you tomorrow night, everybody. Have fun.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.